¿Sí? ¿Te cuento un chiste? ¿Em sents bé? Vale. Sí? Ok. ¿Dónde está la Sonia? Vale. Let's start then. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us today for this event that is co-organized with the HIO and Caixa Research Institute. This is a very special occasion for us because it marks the first session that we host as on competitive funding event. That is a milestone for us to prepare to open the building next year. I suppose everybody saw the building in front of Cosmo Caixa. We are very happy that it's almost finished and we will be there next year. Just let you know that the session will be recorded and that you will receive the access to the recording afterwards. We will also send a short satisfaction survey, so you can then give us your feedback and make us improve for future events. And just a quick reminder to all the speakers, please be mindful on time because that will help us to keep the session running smoothly. So let me welcome the first speaker. He's Ignacio Moreno de Alborán. He's a researcher at CSIC, and currently he's seconded to the European Research Council Executive Agency, where he's involved in organizing evaluation panels. So he's going to give us an overview of 2026 work plan, and also maybe he's going to share some insights about what is expected to change in 2027. He will also be moderating one of the roundtables that we will have later. So I think that's all I have to tell to you. So welcome again. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for joining us online also. And just please welcome Ignacio to the floor.
Well, first of all, first things first, thank you very much for inviting me. I mean, Sandra and Sonia, background Research Oncology and Institute of Oncology and Caixa Research Institute. It's a great opportunity for me to present some of the insights of the ERC. Well, the first thing I want to tell you is who am I? Okay, I'm a CSIC principal investigator. I had my lab in the National Center for Biotechnology in Madrid until 2 years ago that I joined the ERC as a seconded national expert. What is a seconded national expert? Well, these are positions that are open for civil servants of member states to join any institution of the European Commission, including the agencies, okay? The ERC is an executive agency of the European Commission. So you can join, and in my case, I joined the ERC 2 years ago, and it's a temporary position. You can be up to 4 years in this position. And basically, the idea is to learn the know-how of these institutions and then translate that knowledge to your home institute. So that's what a seconded national expert is. And it's important to say that I'm not, my salary doesn't come from the ERC, it comes from the CSIC, okay? So that's very important because although I'm representing the ERC, I have my conflict of interest in terms of what I can say, what I cannot say regarding the CSIC. Okay, so having said that, let's get started with the presentation. Well, the first thing, probably most of you that are here is, well, show me the money, okay? Basically, what you want to know is, how can I get ERC grant, okay? Probably many of you are potential ERC applicants or grant managers, and you want to know the insights of how to make a probably successful proposal to get an ERC grant. Okay, so I'm going to give you an overview of what the ERC is. Probably 80% of the information I'm going to give you, you probably know already, but probably 20% is something that you keep in mind our news for you. And I hope this helps you to help applicants or applicants themselves to write a successful proposal. So the first thing, okay, as you know, the ERC was set up by the European Union in 2007 and is the main European funding organization for frontier research, okay? It's part of the Horizon Europe. As you know, Horizon Europe is the main research and innovation program of the European Commission. This is very important to know. I'm just trying to give you the contents where the ERC is within all these European Commission organization. The ERC is included in Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe has several parts, several called pillars, and among those pillars is research, excellence in research, and ERC is included in that. So when negotiations start for the next framework program, it's very important for the ERC, if you will, to lobby the European Commission to show how good we are in terms to get better funding. So keep in mind that for the ERC, it's extremely important, okay, to have visibility. When we ask the PIs, okay, show me you get a great result, please send us, you know, a summary, send us images, you know, because the ERC, I mean, it's very important. I mean, it's a matter of convincing politicians at the end of the day that what we do is great, and it has an impact in society and in health. So this is the context where the ERC is within the European Commission. So as you can see, across the different framework programs, the budget of the ERC has been increasing. Currently, it's about 16 billion euros, okay, for the whole framework program, which is about 2.5, 2.7 millions per year. So, okay, billions, sorry, per year. Okay, so the ERC is, as I see it, okay, a success story. It became a brand, okay? So when you get an ERC grant, you get prestige, you get a lot of money, opens many doors, and these are the numbers, a rough estimation of the numbers of the output of the ERC throughout the years from 2017. I think these are up to 2024. So as you can see, it's a successful story, and it's our responsibility as scientists, as members of the scientific community, to keep the ERC up and running. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the ERC works, and so you have a clear idea where the whole organization works. So the most important element of the ERC is the Scientific Council. It's where decision making takes place. Nothing happens in the ERC without the approval of the Scientific Council. Scientific Council is formed by 20+ members, encompassing basically the 3 domains of the ERC, life sciences, physics and engineering and mathematics, and social sciences and humanities, okay? And all of these domains are represented in the Scientific Council. The president is Maria Leptin, is biologist. She's a biologist, and it's got all the 3 vice presidents representing one of each domains. Their mandate is for 4 years, renewable once, okay? So, as I said, nothing happens in the ERC without the approval of the Scientific Council. The work program is approved by them. Any new modification to the work program, actions come from the Scientific Council. Okay, and I'm going to take a step back to the first slide. As I said, the Scientific Council is the decision making of the ERC. At the bottom of the slide, you can see the ERC itself. Okay, it has one director, Laurence Moreau. She has a role more of administrative issues, and it's got also 3 departments, and it's got roughly about 400 employees. 400 employees, civil servants of the European Commission, probably there are like 15, 20 people in the ERC. 150 probably are scientific officers, and there are financial officers. And seconded national experts like me, we are like probably between 15 and 20 seconded national experts from all member states. Although I have to say that the TSIC is very well represented now because we are 5, actually, which is very good. So the main message from this slide is that although the scientific council takes all the decisions for the ERC, is dependent on the European Commission, specifically from the Director General Research and Innovation. Okay, there is a steering committee that basically supervises the ERC, and so the transfer of information goes from the scientific council to the ERC, from the ERC to the scientific council. I mean, we're getting constant questions about how to improve things. You know, we are in contact with panel members. They suggest things, and we communicate those issues to the scientific councils. They consult us. How can we arrange these things? And but on top of everything is the European Commission, and you have to keep that in mind. It's back to the first slide. I mean, it's very important for the ERC to convince politicians that we are doing a good job, and that what we do is really important. So it's always, let's put it that way, kind of a struggle between. I mean, you want to increase your budget, so you have to convince the Commission. Okay. The commissioner, okay, the member of the European Commission is Ekaterina Zaharyeva. She's a lawyer, and but the director general of the kind of Ministry of Research and Innovation is Marc Lemaitre. So these people are, at the end of the day, responsible for getting the ERC budget and approving the budget of the ERC. So this first part is just to give you the context where the ERC is in terms of organization within the European Commission. Now I'm going to give you some highlights of it, about something that probably most of you know, but probably there is some kind of information that you might not know and you can use for your future application. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the different ERC grants and how to apply for these grants and how to improve your proposals. Then I will get back to the new novelties of the work program 2026. Okay, probably as you know, the ERC supports groundbreaking research. That's the main goal, excellent research, okay? And gives the opportunity to establish their own labs or to consolidate their labs to the successful researchers that apply for our ERC grant. As you know, anybody in the world can apply for an ERC grant. There's no restriction in citizenship. The only requires that you have to perform your research in a member state, in the EU or associated country. That's the only constraint, okay? What's good about getting an ERC grant? Okay, that you get a lot of money and you get financial autonomy for 5-6 years. That gives you also a good position to negotiate with your host institution the conditions to set up your lab. And I mean, one of the main things is that you can take your grant wherever you go, okay? So you can apply your grant with one host institution if you're not happy there because you have troubles and they don't give you what they promised, that you can move to another host institution and bring your grant with you, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. That is probably most of you know, but that's something that gives you a lot of freedoms. What kind of grants does the ERC have? Okay, you got the starting grants. That's, as you know, for starting grants, you have to have defend your the eligibility window is 2 to 7 years after PhD. This has changed, will change. I will get back to that at the end of my talk. 1.5 million euros for 5 years, and remember a possible additional 1 million extra, 1 million extra of 1 million euros extra. Basically, additional funding, you can use it for moving, for instance, from the States to the moving expenses, or access to large facilities, or the purchase of major equipment. So that's something that is included in that you can apply for. Consolidated grants, the eligibility window is, as you know, is between 7 and 12 years after PhD, the defense of the PhD, up to 2 million, and also it's got 1 million of additional funding. Advanced grants, no eligibility window. Anybody at any career stage can apply for. And advanced grants is up to 2.5 million, and it's obviously it's got this 1 million of additional funding. Then we have a very small grants that are called proof of concept, are only for ERC grantees. These are grants designed to translate some of the basic research into commercial value, okay? To set up your results ready to, for instance, to start a startup company. It's 150,000 euros for 1 year. And as I said, you have to be an ERC grantee to apply for those proof of concept. And finally, there is, we have the synergy grants. As you know, these are collaborative grants from 2 to 4 principal investigators, up to 10 million for 6 years, with a potential additional funding of 4 million. And it's got the main feature of you can have one PI located outside the European Union, okay? You can have a collaborator in the US or Australia, whatever you want, including private companies, for instance. The synergy panels were last week, actually, and these are extremely competitive grants because, I mean, the amount of money, as you can see, is very relevant. As I know, I mean, I since many talks of synergy grants are basically wonderful. I mean, I really enjoy to listen to this synergy grant. I mean, you can see wonderful ideas with great PIs, you know, showing their ideas. So it's kind of I like it a lot. So. Some more details about the synergy grants, as I said, 2 to 4 PIs. And these are some of the conditions that you have to be aware because, I mean, you cannot change the PIs in the middle of the project. As I said, no one PI can be from outside, and it's a maximum of 6 years and up to 10 million and 4 million of additional funding. Well, these are, as you know, the ERC grants schemes. And what is the main issue or the main criteria to get an ERC grant? As you know, it's called excellence, okay? Excellence, if you look at the dictionary, is the quality of being outstanding, of extremely good. And excellence is evaluated throughout the whole process. What the panel members evaluate is the excellence of the research project. I will get into more details later in the talk. The groundbreaking nature of the project, feasibility, ambition, all these kind of words, you know, to show that what is key for getting an ERC grant is to have a completely new and original idea. Obviously, the CV of the principal investigator is important, okay? You have to show that you can carry out the project that you propose. But it's not the main criteria to award an ERC grant. As a matter of fact, since Work Program 2024, if I remember well, the evaluation is primarily focused on the research project, okay? So panel members are clearly instructed to evaluate, to give more weight to the research project than the CV. So this, I will come to this later, but what I'm trying to tell you is that you don't have to have a Cell, Nature, Science paper to get an ERC grant, okay? You have to show that you're independent, that you have, basically, the bottom line, that you're able to perform the work that you propose. Now I'm going to tell you step by step how to apply for these things. Probably most of you know, but if there are some potential applicants in the audience, I mean, I think you will find this very helpful. What is key is it's a lot of work, okay? To apply for an ERC grant is a lot of work. So start early, and you have all kinds of tools that help you to write a good proposal, well, an excellent proposal. You have, as you know, the application online and the ERC and in the European Commission website. Read the documents, and the ERC has videos to show you how to write a good proposal with all kinds of detail. Talk to the Institute of Grant Office. I mean, get help wherever you can, okay? Contact the national contact point. Talk to ERC grantees. And if you have questions, you can contact us. These are the emails to contact the ERC. Bottom line, if I had to write a ERC grant right now, what I would do, the first thing is I would contact an ERC grantee. Okay, can you give me your proposal? Can I read it? I mean, get as many proposals as you can from ERC grantees to have a feeling how it's written, how they have developed their ideas. I think that's really, 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 really key. And also, well, I will get to that, but give obviously people that are in your field to read the proposal, people that are outside your field to read your proposal. And I'll get that back in a minute, okay? Well, the first thing you have to be aware is whether you are eligible or not, okay? For these different grant schemes, okay? You have eligibility windows for starting proposals, for CUP proposals, okay? So if you have doubts, contact the ERC, okay? Because there are exceptions. You can have extensions of the eligibility windows, okay? Maternity leave is one of them. You get 18 months per child, no matter when these child were born, obviously before the call deadline, but you get 18 months, okay? So that expands a lot your eligibility window. And I will, in the next slide, I'll show you this exception. You have to be aware that the commitment of the project is very well established. Like for starting, 50% of your time has to be dedicated to the starting, then 40% for the COG, and 30% of the advance. And then also realize that you have double affiliations with one lab outside or one institution outside the European Union. 50% of the working time has to be in the European Union. Be aware of that. So what are the extensions of the eligibility windows? Okay, as I said, maternity leave, paternal leave. I mean, maternity leave is well established, 18 months per child. That's it. And the rest is on a case-by-case basis. I mean, you have to show how long you have been ill or you have been involved in the national service, whatever. You have to justify that, and the ERC will come up with an answer and tell you, well, okay, you have 7 months or whatever, depending on what you have shown. Okay. Another thing that you have to be very careful with, it's obviously is to choose the host institution. I mean, the main thing is if you don't have to be, that's very important, you have to be employed at the time you apply for the ERC grant by the host institution, but you have to have a support letter. If you get a grant, that gives you all the freedom to do whatever you want with your grant. As I said, it's portable. You can take it whenever, you can bring it with you whatever you want. And that's a good position to negotiate your condition. The next thing you have to do is choose your panel. And this is one of the main questions I get, is which panel should I apply for? Okay. As an ERC, I cannot commit myself to tell you, you have to apply to this one, okay? What I would do is, talk to the people in your field. Where do these people apply? Which panel they apply? If you are in between panels, pick the part of your, look at the part of your proposal that is more innovative, that is one panel member is gonna read and say, wow, this is really original, and go for that panel, okay? Be aware that the ERC is extremely careful with interdisciplinary proposals. I mean, once you apply for one panel, if the panel doesn't have all the expertise required to assess properly the proposal, we'll ask another panel for a with a specific expertise for a review of that proposal, okay? And you completely miss the panel, the ERC has the right to transfer the proposal from the primary panel you choose to the appropriate panel. You don't want that to happen, let me tell you, okay? So you have to be very careful with that. But talk to the people in your field and to pick the right panel. There are panels that are clear-cut. I mean, ecology, environmental is LS8, that's for sure. But some others are not that clear-cut, okay? And let me tell you, let me give you some useful terms that you might know, but just to be on the same page. Panel is the area of expertise in which you apply for, and in the case of LAs, there are 9 LS panels. PE, physical and engineering has 11, and social scientists 8. Panel member is a scientist outside of the ERC, with expertise in the subject of the panel. Panel meeting is what we have last week, and I'll have in a couple of weeks with Consolidator. I mean, these are the meetings with all the panel members that basically assess the proposal. It's done on-site in Brussels. Panel chair is the person, the panel member who moderates scientifically the panel meeting. Panel coordinator is ERC staff that is responsible for that the whole evaluation process runs according to the ERC, well, the work program criteria, the ERC criteria. If you want to find an example, in panel meetings, if this is a football game, the panel members are the players and the panel coordinator are the referees, okay? They cannot give their scientific opinion, but they are really pay attention that what is being said and done is according to the rules, okay? For instance, one thing is host institution is not evaluation criteria. So if a panel member comes up with something, oh, well, this comes from the Karolinska Institute, she's going to do really well because that host institution. No, you cannot say that, okay? This is not so that's the role of the panel coordinator. Panel transfer, as I said, is when you don't pick the right panel, and we look at the abstract, we'll read the proposal and say, oh, this doesn't fit here, okay? It has to go this panel. It has to be authorized by the panel chairs of their giving and receiving panel. Cross-panel review is, as I said, is a review from another panel to complement the review of the primary panel. And panel members alternate every year, okay? So 1 year on, 1 year off, okay? They're mandated for 8 years, so they have a maximum of 4 panel calls, and they sign a contract with the ERC. Confidentiality is key here, okay? And they have to sign this contract. They have to abide by the rules for conflict of interest with that the ERC takes extremely seriously, okay? We do all that is possible to make sure that we don't have any conflict of interest. Okay, there are something that goes beyond our capabilities. It is a romantic relationship between the applicant and the panel member. We can know. Okay, but we do all in our hands to make sure that there are no conflict of interest. And I mean, I witnessed this, and I've seen several cases, and I have to say that it's, I mean, they follow the rules by the book, basically. So one thing is, as you know, we have an excellent website that you can access, and it gives you a lot of information on how to apply and everything. And now I'm going to go specifically how the proposals are evaluated. Okay, as you know, it's a single submission. Okay, you send the whole proposals to the ERC, and that's it for you. But there are 2 steps of evaluation. Step 1, okay. As I said, you submit your application with part 1, which has the extended synopsis, CV and track record, and part 2, implementation and budget, okay? Step 1 is assessed remotely, okay, by panel members. They act as a generalist. I'll get back in a second. And they only see part 1, okay? And they see the extended synopsis, CV and track record. If I remember well, 5 pages, okay? And that's it. They don't see anything else. Part 2 is not accessible for them. Once they have done this at home, basically they come to Brussels and we have the panel meeting. And the outcome of the panel meeting, it could be non-successful proposals, which is got non-retained. And you can have a score of I'm not invited, I will get to that, B or C, okay? Be aware of, if you get a B, 1 year restriction, you cannot apply next year. C, 2 years. So it makes a huge difference in terms of the score that you get, okay? About 30% of the proposals get into step 2. Okay, so all the individual reviews, the panel comments are sent to the applicants, everything, basically to the applicants that have not make it to step 2. Proposals that are retained, I mean, potentially fundable, they are moved to step 2. And in step 2, the proposal, part 1 and part 2 is assessed, is given to the panel members. Usually 4 panel members are responsible for assessing with 1 lead reviewer that summarizes all the reviews of the other 3 panel members. And the main characteristic is now in this step you have remote referees, okay? So we contact remote referees that are specialists in the field, okay? And those reviews, together with the panel members' reviews, are the whole review of the proposal, okay? So the panel members come to Brussels, and we have the panel step 2 meetings with remote interviews that I will get that into later in the talk, okay? The end of the deliverables of this is you get funded or non-funded. A, fundable, B, non-fundable. So basically the panel established the ranking list, and we have an assigned budget for every panel, and we know in advance we can probably fund 5, 6 proposals, 10, whatever. And then when we run out of budget, then the reserve list starts. I have to tell you something. I mean, the fundable proposals are not ranked. We don't care. Okay, are fundable, that's it. But the reserve list is ranked. Okay, we have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, that's very important. Okay, and since 2024, there is an additional score that is called A non-invited. These are proposals that didn't make it to step 2, but when the panel reached the limit of 44 proposals that passed to step 2, they can use this score for proposals that are very good, but not enough, and they don't have any restrictions to apply. They can apply next year. For that to happen, the panel has to pass at least 44 proposals. Why 44 proposals? No secret on this. It's the amount of proposals we can deal for 5 days in Brussels for interviews. And there's a limit. I mean, we cannot spend 2 weeks interviewing people. So that's how it works. No secret. So, okay, so this is how you should at least write your proposal. As I said, you have part 1, 5 pages, part 2, 7 pages, 10 pages for senior grant. And step 1 is only evaluated part 1 is only evaluated in step 1, and step 2, part 1 and part 2. So, here's the thing. Part 1. What do you have to write on part 1? Okay, you have to show that your idea is extremely original, okay, that is ambitious. You have to summarize a little bit the state of knowledge of the field, okay, outline the objectives, okay, and give a hint about how you're going to do it. Be careful that this is a major change this year for 2026. Feasibility is this doable, basically? This goes completely to part 2 now. I mean, the problem they have, the panel members, is in part 2 you have research methodology, and people were struggling when we were writing part 1 and part 2. How much of the research methodology can I include in part 1, or should I put everything in part 2? You know, and there were these discrepancies between part 1 and part 2, and applicants were really struggling with that. So the scientific council decided, okay, good, okay, so research methodology goes into part 2, okay? You only had to give just some clues about how you're going to do it, but the main thing is in part 2. So feasibility is gone from part 1, okay? But you have to show just what I said. I mean, the original idea. I mean, if you listen to my talk a few weeks ago, what I see when I read ERC proposals is when I read the abstract, it's that you have the feeling is, wow, this is really original, okay? It gives you the impression that you want to read more, okay? It's not a regular grant. You have to be really, really original and propose some bold ideas, you know, to get the grant. And the second part of the proposal, as I said, you have to give a lot of detail about how you're going to do it. So methodology, extensive methodology, work plan, who's going to do it, risk assessment. Okay, what if this doesn't work? Okay, mitigation measure, and yes, I need the money to do this, because if you need larger equipment, that's fine. Okay, you can use the additional funding, for instance, okay? There are many people who ask for a flow cytometer, you know, that is a regular equipment in any research institute. But yes, but I'm going to use it for 24 hours and I cannot use the core facility because I'm going to saturate the core facility. So I want to buy my own, okay? That's pretty justified, okay? So no, you don't have to go out of the blue just to justify things. Okay. New CV and track record. This had changed a couple of years ago. It's more a narrative CV, okay? You have to show your publications, obviously, prices, awards, whatever you have. Additional information, I mean, you have follow-up, not regular, let's say, or not classical career path, you know, you come from, I don't know, from physics or you know, I went, bought a boat and sailed around the world for 1 year. Okay, you can say that also. Okay, or some people say, look, I have personal issues, and you can, and I've been 1-2 years away from research, and there's a gap in my CV. Okay, so you can justify that. For synergy grants, I mean, I get the question, okay, what is the difference between, you know, a synergy and collaborative? Okay, synergy grants are, by definition, collaborative grants. But the way I see it is, is that you have a fundamental biological question that you cannot approach by yourself. I mean, you need a whole group of different teams to answer that question. Not a collaborative that it's going to give me, you know, a couple panel, you know, figure 2, panel B. No. I mean, it's completely integrated. You need everyone to get to answer the question. Okay, as I said, it's extremely competitive, and you want to address, let's put a massive biological question. Let's put it that way. Okay, interview. There's a lot of fuss about interviews and everything. I mean, interviews are key. I'm not going to deny that. Okay, be careful of this thing. Okay, don't explain your CV. They know your CV. They know your publication. Don't get into that. Okay, just focus on the research. Okay, what you have to convince is I'm the right person to do the project. That's it. But don't over-explain your CV. That basically shouldn't be the focus of the interview. If you have new data, show it. Okay, take advantage of the interview. Okay, obviously prepare the questions. Okay, so and keep the time. I mean, people basically it's 10 minutes interview, and people nail it. Okay, I've seen people, you know, 9 minutes and 59 seconds, and I say, oh my God, the guy didn't nail it. You know, stick to the time because otherwise they will cut you short. Okay, because you have to be fair. Everybody has 10 minutes. You cannot have 10, 11. Okay, so be aware of that. And here's the thing. Be a scientist. That's the key thing. Don't become an actor suddenly. Okay, I've seen people, you know, that have been coached, which is okay. Okay, but it's not bad. But you don't need that. Okay, be a scientist. Answer the question scientifically. Use the appropriate vocabulary, and be yourself. I mean. And don't be, if you will, If you have a Nature paper and you got the cover, don't put the cover on the background, please. Don't do that. I mean, nobody's going to tell you anything, but that shows something they know already, okay? Don't overdo it, okay? Just be yourself and answer the questions scientifically and be natural. Don't overdo it and don't become an actor. And people just see you moving the hands, very theatrical. I don't know. It's not, people don't expect that. I mean, and the panel has a lot of empathy for people. They know, they put themselves in your shoes, and they know you're nervous, and a lot of us, it's at stake, and then they know what you're going through, okay? English is not your first language. Obviously, you don't feel that comfortable, and you're extremely nervous, and you hesitate sometimes. But be honest, okay? What if you are applying for a different grant with the same proposals? Okay, you can explain that. Okay, if I get the ERC grant, I will pick the ERC grant. If I don't get it, and get the other one, I get the other one. That's fine. No problem. Okay, misperceptions. These things. I mean, research is the focus. Research project is the focus of the evaluation more than the CV of the applicant. Okay, and these are things that people come up. If you have an ERC grant, you have more possibilities. No. If you don't get it, you have less. No. So basically, these are, and be aware of these things. The budget is distributed across all the panels based on demand. Okay, so that basically normalizes the success rate, which is about between 10, 12, 13%. As a mean for a ERC grant. So if you get 100 proposals, you get more money than if you get 50. So success rate is not linked to academic age. Publication is not decisive. Okay, as I said, you don't need a Nature Cell paper to get an ERC grant, but you have to show that you're able to do the work. And keep trying. I mean, success rate is higher in people that try more than once. And changes for 2026. Most of you know these things, but I'll remind you. Okay. For Work Program 2026, there is an increase in additional funding from 1 million to 2 million for those proposals that come from outside of the European Union. Okay. As you can guess, this is a political decision by Ursula von der Leyen, just looking at the current political situation, international situation. So this is trying to attract people from outside of the European to come to do research. And there is a new grant, the ERC Plus grant. Okay, this is part of a new 200 million package that Ursula von der Leyen gave to the ERC. It will fund about 30 grants for all domains. So 30 people in the whole Europe will get this grant. That's it. No more than that. It's 7 million euros, no matter, for 7 years. And from people all over the world. And we are being hammered by how this is going to be done. I cannot give you the details. It will, probably we will have soon news about how it's going to be done. It's going to be extremely competitive. I mean, this is for extremely big potential big shots. Okay, so be aware of that. And we are basically struggling to accommodate this grant into the whole schedule. Who is going to read it? Who's going to assess it, evaluate it, and so on. Dates and everything. Okay. Future changes for Work Program 2027. This is really important. Okay, eligibility window. There are more changes that affect the panel member, and I'm not going to go into those details. But starting grants, now you can defend your PhD and apply for a starting grant, up to 10 years. Consolidator grants, 5 to 10 years, instead of 7 to 12. Exemptions, eligibility window are criteria is the same, and you can only have one starting or consolidator in your research career. Okay, this thing answered the question. I mean, we in panel meetings, panel members were complaining about the different scientific careers, specifically in life sciences. As you know, I mean, postdocs have become long postdocs now, 5, 6 years. So people didn't have enough time to apply. With those restrictions in the eligibility windows, they didn't have enough time to apply for starting, okay? They were, let's say, too old, okay? So these measures try to mitigate these issues. So giving the applicant to choose whether to go or wait for starting or for a call. We don't know how it's going to work. I think it's going to be kind of little mess. Okay, be aware that you have videos, all kinds of stuff in the website, and not going to get into that. They have made new videos, and you have access to them. These are the call calendar for this, and I'm just going to finish with 2 more slides regarding some statistics. But I mean, let me tell you, the ERC has a bunch of people dedicated to generate statistics of all kinds, with all colors and flavors. And you cannot imagine, I mean, because once you have a clear picture of something, oh, well, what if, modify this parameter? And I mean, they keep a very close eye on how the evaluation, I'm really, really impressed with that, okay? Really dedicated people to see how they can improve everything, basically, how the panels are not great. I know, when people are thinking about how can we do this within our budget, people are complaining this. What are the statistics? I mean, is there gender biases, other kind of biases, okay? They keep a close eye on that. They have people looking into statistics for every year, and they have tons of it, okay? So basically, Spain is doing well, I think, and this is statistics from House Institution, okay? It's doing well, but this is, in my opinion, misleading slide, because, I mean, you have to normalize this by the budget that is invested, and you can normalize it in many ways. So the budget that is dedicated to research, for instance, population, you can do whatever you want. And here's the great news. I mean, who are the top institutions that get ERC grants in Spain? CSIC is the number 1. No, I would love to say that, but CSIC means 120 different institutions across all the domains, okay? I mean, Catalonia is doing absolutely amazingly. So, I mean, I see many proposals from here. So, I mean, keep doing what you're doing and try to improve it. But, I mean, you're doing really well. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So we have 4 minutes to take a question, and then the coffee break is starting at 10. So then if you have any quick question for our speaker. Yes.
Thank you for a really nice and informative talk. I saw that with the change in the range of years that you will be able to apply at STG and COG, there will be an overlap of a few years in which you can apply to either.
Yeah.
It is my case that currently I fall into the COG category, but I will be able to apply to the other one. And one thing that is not clear to me is if it's a strategically smart choice to move from the COG to the STG with the same proposal.
Okay. Truly honest question. I don't have an answer, unfortunately, because, yeah, I buy your argument. I mean, where to apply? I mean, I don't know. One would assume that if you are, let's say, a senior applicant for starting at the latest, you do have higher chances, okay, than going to COG, consolidator, the first years, because you're going to compete with people more senior than you. That's the theory. And we are in a new territory here, basically, because we don't know how it's going to work. I mean, this kind of conversation we have every day, whether we have a peak of people applying later years of the HLB window for starting. I'm sorry, but I cannot, and I understand, I mean, but probably nobody knows.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm in the same position. So just a sort of question. If I apply for the consolidator this year and get a score of a B, that means I can't apply next year again.
Yeah,
But
right.
does that apply to the starting grant as well?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I will come up. I mean, I can answer the question. I can ask my colleagues, but I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the.
Sorry, my guess would be that no, you cannot apply, but let's keep that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I was thinking on the overlap between the synergy call, evaluation interviews, and for example the advanced call. So if you apply for a synergy and you get to the interview and you want to make sure you have all the opportunities, could you submit an advance grant that is going to be submitted before the resolution of the synergy?
No, you have to wait until you can apply only once for a call. Okay, you have to pick the one that you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
The host institution, can you tell us something more about? I know it's not anymore part of the evaluation criteria, but officially, but unofficially?
I mean, well, this is a tough question, I have to say. Well, anyway, I'm restraining myself not to tell you more than I think. So the thing is, this happens also, for instance, we cannot use the term impact factors. You cannot say the guy has a cell paper, has a nature paper, high impact paper. But everybody is using that on the back of their head, you know. So yes, I mean, with the house institution, I mean, we are extremely careful that to cut short any kind of discussion about that. You know, it's when people say they are coming, I mean, when we read their reviews and they mention the house institution, okay, you cannot say that, okay? This guy, that's as far as I can go, okay? Psychologically, the panel member knows, obviously. But I think at the beginning, you know, I thought as a scientist, you know, obviously you are in the pasture, you have more chances of being successful than you are in the middle of nowhere, you know. But now I understand why the host institution is not a criteria. I mean, it's to give chances to everyone, okay? If you're in the middle of nowhere and a host institution is a criteria, you have no chance whatsoever. And I think it's fair to have that criteria. And I think they apply this criteria honestly in panel meetings.
Which is a roundtable of ERC evaluators, is starting at 10:30, so we can get it to be on time. Thank you. ERC evaluators. It will last until 11:45, and we will leave some minutes for your questions. Ignacio Moreno is taking the role of moderator. So, Nacho, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, again, it's a pleasure to be here. To start with this roundtable, I would like to, first of all, to introduce our panelists. On my left is Arcaida Carretero. He is ECR grantee, a starting and consolidator in LS4. He's Iber Basque Research Professor, Group Leader of the Cancer Cell Signaling and Metabolism Lab. On my left is Maria Garcia Parajo, ICREA Research Professor, Senior Group Leader of the Single Molecule Biophotonics Lab at the Institute of Photonic Sciences. She's been panel member, panel chair, panel vice chair 4 times, advanced grantee, potential new advanced grantee. And on my right is José Anton, full professor of microbiology, group leader of the Molecular Microbial Ecology Lab, University of Alicante. She's a panel member of LSA, Ecology and Evolution. So, well, welcome all of you, and we're going to start with some questions, and we would like this to be very dynamic. I will start with a few questions to the panelists, and also we'll have some time for you to intervene and ask or complement our comments. So the first question I would like to ask to Josefa is basically strengths. What strengths or qualities can make a proposal stand out or tip the balance in its favor?
Thank you very much. So, I mean, it's clear, you already said that the key point, it has to be groundbreaking, but it has to be very convincing also. Okay, so you have to read it and say, oh, this is mind-blowing, this is the kind of proposals that go through the end. And this is also based on like formal aspects. I mean, but formal aspects are only a mean to go into the point. So it has to be flawless. I mean, you have to read it without breaks. It has to be, the flow has to be very good, and everything has to be clear. Depending, I guess it depends on the panel, but for instance, in my panel, it is very important that the proposal is theory challenging. But you have to see it from the beginning. I mean, you don't have to be digging into the proposal to look for the interest. It has to be convincing. So very good science, very good idea. When something is really original and is well written, normally, and of course, I mean, it depends also on the other proposal, but the key part for me is the science. But this is also, I mean, you may also have good science and not be able to transmit the idea. This you have to work on that, and you have to be very precise. It's not that you say this is very interesting. No, the reviewers have to see that the proposal is interesting. You don't have to, and you have to be convincing, but not based on opinions, but based on facts. And the frame has to be very clear. So for me, it's good science, but very well communicated. That's like the key. I mean, quite difficult anyway, but that's.
Do you want to comment on that or have additional comments?
Yeah, no, I would say that would converge very well. So you have to really, the importance in here is that you convey the message, right? And if you want to pass to the second phase, then you need to write up 5 pages in which you really need to transmit what is the novelty, what is the groundbreaking nature of the proposal, but in a simple, easy way, so that all the panelists, they can understand that. If you start by being very specific or very specialized on the B1, and the ideas are not very clear, then chances are that the generalists are going to miss the essence of the proposal. So as simple, as didactic, highlighting what is the groundbreaking nature, what is the novelty, how in general you're going to approach the problem, but as simple as possible. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I think that as applicants, we start with an idea, and In different types of projects, perhaps we focus on how to bring them to the ground, which are the key experiments. I think in that sense, the ERC is slightly different. That idea needs to be slow cooked and make it into a concept, and then that concept needs to run through the grant. It's very important that the concept is clear, is groundbreaking, that you are doing frontier research, that you are revisiting current paradigms, but then the reader needs to find it very easily. So how the grant is put, how things are, how the concepts are highlighted is very important. We need to take into account how someone will read it and how to make sure that they will focus on the key aspects in the text that you want them to focus and know, not anywhere else. So I think that beyond the concept, there is the form, as it was mentioned here, and I think it's very important so that they row with you in your direction while you are developing the concept and your capacity to lead it. Not only that you have a fantastic idea, but also that you are the person to lead it and that now is the moment to carry it on.
Well, I share all these comments. I would like just to add or to remind you that when you're writing your proposal, part one, which is only evaluated in step one, is read by, in principle, a generalist, and not experts on your field. So you have to be careful how you write this, okay? And it's not easy. I mean, obviously, you have to have a balance, okay? You cannot be superficial, but it has to be understandable for people that are not experts in your field. On the other hand, it can happen that the guy is an expert. But still, I mean, he has clear instructions, the panel member has clear instructions to assess the proposal as a generalist point of view. I mean, the panel member expects more in part two.
I can add something.
Yeah, sure.
This can be a bit difficult because it has to be like clear. Well, they are not experts, but they are close to it, because some people tend, or even in the interview, to make it like too like an outreach talk, and it's for scientists in a field that is close to your field. So it's you don't have to talk about the impact of the global warming. I mean, in general terms, because everybody is going to know. So it's a bit difficult, like to tune the level, because it has to be clear. But if your ideas are clear and you are used to like explain things to the others, you will find a way. But it's also bad like to be in a level which is too general. So it's a bit, but still, because you may be an expert in the subject. So it's this like it doesn't have to be like naive. It has to be like serious scientists, as he said before. But I mean, it may sound more difficult than it is. But just tune the tone of the narrative. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think that in line with that, when you're writing for someone that might not be inside your field, the definitions are very important. So we all have definitions that we use routinely. I think it's quite key that you are very explicit with what you mean when you are talking about any concept that you think is important to be grounded in the grant. So, I mean, don't be afraid to make a statement or a box defining what do you mean with whatever concept is important in your grant, so that someone will read it as you are writing it. It's very easy that someone from a slightly different field will have a different definition for the same word that you are using in a scientific term. So take the opportunity and make sure that that person is reading it as you are trying to convey the message. And I think that, as Ignacio said, it's a very good opportunity to read other ERC grants, and when you do, realize where are you stopping, what is catching your attention, and then analyze why and mimic it. Because I think that this is exactly what you want. A good ERC proposal is the one that brings you to the key points in a quick read, and then you can go deeper. So try to grab those strategies and incorporate them in the grant so that the grant can be read in different ways with different depth, but always going to the key messages that you want to highlight.
Yeah, I would also add something more, let's see, more formal, which is a question that comes up rather frequently, and it's whether you have to have preliminary data or not. Okay, okay, it's not written in the work program that you need preliminary data. Okay, but either you have a very strong base of scientific literature supporting your hypothesis, or preliminary data is absolutely needed, okay? And this is the place to show it, okay? Because if your hypothesis relies on something, a proof of concept that depends the rest of the proposal, you need to show that upfront, okay? That's very, very important. I mean, we have many reviews, you know, that there's no convincing preliminary, there's no preliminary data, you know, and that is a no-go for step one. Okay.
Although this has changed, right? So this is going to change in the program 2026, 2027. And although, so you won't need to include preliminary data because the feasibility is not going to be evaluated in B1. However, and I got advice because I was talking just to the coordinator of my panel, you need to show in B1, or would be highly advisable on B1 to really show that the project is realistic. So if you don't show preliminary data, at least convinced based on papers that you have recently published or whatever, that the proposal is realistic and that you are the person to carry on this research. If you propose a novel method or a very exotic type of approach, then include preliminary data. That was the advice that, yeah.
Okay, so we go on with the second question. It's underlined common mistakes. So in your experience, what kind of mistakes tend to weaken and otherwise strong ERC proposals? Do you want to start?
Of course, if it's, I mean, this is not common, but if it's sloppy, I mean, if it's formally, it's very weak, it's not acceptable because you expect like a high level from the person who's writing this. And also these proposals that you read and you say, so what? I mean, that you go through the summary and you say, I didn't get the point of the novelty, and in my panel also, it's maybe it's not the same in other panels, but something that is considered only descriptive or only exploratory without any very good reason will also be considered not, it wouldn't go through the end. And also when it's incremental, those are things, I mean, I don't mean that this is my opinion. I think that maybe it's something exploratory that will change the world, but it's more difficult to convince the panel when you only have descriptive things. You have to put it in a theoretical framework or be very convincing. So for me, these two kind of mistakes, when it's also when there is not ambitious enough, when there is something that is like a national proposal, something that said this could be funded in their countries without, I mean, like a normal thing that you would present to the Ministry of Science. Okay, so these kind of things. But this, I mean, it's like the other side of the first question, no? The good things, and the other is weaknesses.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that perhaps to me the biggest mistake, and it's not a difficult one to make, is to assume that this is a bunch of money to do a bunch of experiments. It's true, it's a large sum. is the largest project that we can get here. So we are, I would say, not in disadvantage, but we are less used to write proposals and ideas with this dimension in Spain as opposed to other countries. But I think that thinking about the experiments, thinking about what you want to do, might bring you to this type of proposals that are a sum of results that are intended. And I think that the ERC should be about what do you want to do in your lab for the coming 5 years in a high percentage. It's going to cover a big part of your daily work. So what are your ideas as lines of research for the future, and how do you frame them in the concepts that we mentioned before of conceptual leap and frontier research? So thinking about the concept, and especially one of the big advantages of the ERC is that the center is the concept. So the experimental approaches that you write in the grant is the best that you can do at the moment of writing the grant. But the experimental approaches might change, might improve in the future, so you need to take into account, in my opinion, that the concept is at the center and that you will exploit by any possible means, and this is adaptable to the scientific moment, so that the experimental approaches support the feasibility, the proposal being realistic, but they don't limit they don't define the proposal by itself. So it's always about the concept. So this is why when people has come for advice saying, I'm writing an ERC grant, I have this project, I'm going to kind of pump it up and bring it to an ERC, I always have a voice of caution, because I think that you need to approach it in a different way. You need time to write an ERC grant. You need to really develop it and nurture it so that you build on the concept and everything revolves around that. And I think that would be my main point.
Yeah, but very much along what he's saying. And this might probably be more at the level of the probably starting or consolidator, these common mistakes. So 1 million euros seems like a lot. And then you would have the idea of, I'm going to do a bunch of experiments in here to fill up 1 million euros. No, the idea is you think about the concept, the idea. You define objectives and how those objectives are aligned to that only main goal. And then all the experimental approaches, they will have to converge. So reviewers would like to see a convergent proposal in which each objective essentially converges to the main goal of the project, and not just, put 1 million different type of experiments that you don't show coherence between the objectives and how you're going to address the main goal. So that is a structured of writing. The other thing, and this is sort of more, because I guess that, everybody that is in here is already thinking about that major idea in here, and the question is, how do you write this in a way that is readable, that is attractive, that is entertaining? What Nacho was saying, that you read and say, I want to read more because this is cool stuff. So you have to be able to pass this thing that is cool stuff. Now, if the proposal is so overcrowded, it's very difficult for an evaluator to read it. If the figures are miniature, because you want to write a lot, and then you cannot read the figures, I can tell you that evaluators I get very annoyed if I have to read in the evening and I cannot see these things, okay? If the figures do not have captions, the figure doesn't have a purpose, you get annoyed. If you intercalate a lot of bold, italics, green, yellow, red, because everything is important, you get completely paranoid when you're reading the proposal because you don't know what is important and what is important, relevant, not relevant. So, be simple. If you want to highlight something, put it in bold or put it in italics, But not everything is important. If you put a figure, the figure has to explain. So don't make the mistake that you need to write, a Bible in 5 pages, right? Because it's not going to work. And this annoys the reviewers, right?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because it's something that you don't even realize when you are evaluating. But if it gets irritating because it's difficult to follow, because the figure it's not related, it's just a decoration thing, or
you're trying to find out what is the message, what is the new, and you cannot find it. Right.
Too many words, and so this is important. It has to be clean, and because if the project is clean, your mind is also clean structure in a way. So you think so. I mean, it's something. So I think that's a very important thing to be. You don't have to tell your whole thing there. Just go to the point, to the concept that you say, and all the thing has to follow the objective, the tasks. Everything has to go back all the time to. I mean, not repeating. It has to be also cool to. I mean, it has to be fun to read. They are really interesting. So it's. This you have to work it, and you have to read it several times and give it to some other people. So.
There is one piece of advice that they gave me when I think I was writing the Consolidator grant, and I thought this grant, because I think I want to bring this concept forward, I'm going to make a logo. So I made this logo that was meant to convey the spirit of the proposal, and normally I would give the grant to read to several colleagues, and there was people that loved it, people that was not very convinced of it, and there was one person that told me, if whatever you're doing generates a discussion of more than 2 minutes, remove it. So you don't want your grant to be open to interpretations. You want something that really helps the reader accompanying you. And sometimes this happens also at the interview phase. We want to put images that for us convey some strong message about the proposal, but those images can be interpreted in different ways. So if you bring the person that is looking at your interview and you put that person in another mindset, thinking about something different, you are losing that person. So try to be not flat, so the text cannot be flat, because then you don't know what to focus on, but it cannot be it cannot have a content that it's open to the line of thought of the reader. So I link it very much to reading the book to your kid, if you have kids, and trying to put the emphasis wherever you want to put emphasis, and then imagine that you're not there and you want that book to have the same pace. So this is, to me, the most difficult part, how to write a proposal that will be read in a way where it has the right stepping stones and key points where everybody will stop in a quick read and in a slow read as well. So not too many and not too many things, and not too flat so that it's difficult to grasp the importance.
Thank you. Well, I fully concur with all these comments. I mean, they are really good advices. I would like just to stress in a few things. I mean, it's ERC grants are for bold, new ideas, original ideas. You have heard me to say these things several times during my talk. If you are setting up your lab, or you have your lab already set up and you are applying for a consolidator, you probably have your, let's say, everyday project, That's not what we expect at ERC. What we expect is something really new, You are not, like Pepa said, you're not applying for a Plan Nacional, that's for sure. And the keys of that here is the word incremental. If you hear the word incremental, that means you're out, totally out. So this is the time to explore those ideas that you have, or you had a while ago, or you suddenly came up with a really good idea, and it's groundbreaking. It's gonna set up new standards in your field. This is the time to apply for an ERC grant. And a final issue that they mentioned, and I totally agree, it has to be readable, obviously. be aware that panel members get probably between 25, 30 proposals to review. If they find a proposal that is hard to understand, a mess, is not well written, I mean, you're out. I mean, you probably it's good, but I mean, you have a panel member that is playing defense. Okay, so be aware of that. I mean, the panel members are overwhelmed with proposals, so you have to make their lives easier. Okay. Next questions we have is proposals must have. You have to define the must have or haves of a successful ERC proposals. What would it be? It's kind of redundant, I think. Yeah. But further comments to what? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So to me, there are three aspects that I normally emphasize in the phase of the interview if I'm helping someone at this stage. But it has to be very clear in the proposal, and is why this, why now, and why you. So to me, these are the three concepts that need to be very clear in the grant. That the concept is novel, that now is the moment, now and not 2 years ago, and that normally comes with technology, with knowledge, with a moment in research where this can be developed, and that you are the person to lead it. And this is not showing off your CV, but rather showing your capacity to lead. And here, the double-edged sword of having collaborators that don't make you dependable, that don't weaken your leadership. This needs to be very clear. So to me, these three concepts need to be very clear in the grant. Someone needs, whoever reads it, needs to see that this is a proposal that no other scientist could do better than you, and that it's something worth answering right now. So this is something that needs to be very clear. And with this, sometimes the rest can come more easily, because you define what is your strength as a scientist, where did you get in your scientific moment, and what do you have around to try and address it. We were talking about host institutions before and so on, and I agree that it's not a key aspect, but it always needs to play in your favor, never against, that you have everything around to make it happen. So if the project is pivoting on you, I think that the grant is good, is well balanced.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
I just wanted to make, again, in terms of the format writing, normally as evaluators, it's always, if you can manage to do this, because sometimes it's not trivial, but to have one figure, probably figure number one from the B1, which is the essence of the proposal, right? That it conveys really a central figure, like a cartoon or whatever, that actually poses what is the question that you want to address, right? And then, the objectives or how what you want to do converges into addressing that particular question. Sometimes that might be difficult to actually articulate that. That doesn't mean that you need to generate an AI type of, three-dimensional catchy thing, because ERC is not about this, but something that really converges the question, the novelty, the thing that you want to address, and how you do it. If you do that in figure one, accompany with a text that it says the aim of the proposal is this, see the figure, you read the figure, you already got halfway. You're done. So having that first figure is a very important one for the further reading. So that will be tips to keep in mind. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're such a good advisor that I don't have much to add, but just from my experience reading ERC proposals, I mean, is going back to this point of bold, innovative, or original idea. If I can see two characteristics of ERC proposals in general that I can pick from reading all of this, are the idea, obviously, the novelty, groundbreaking nature, blah, 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 and technology, cutting-edge technology. I mean, there's a common characteristic. It's not mandatory at all. I mean, you can pursue your great ideas with classical methods, let's put it that way. But what I see, what I read, it's that people use the latest technology for everything, basically. And it's not written, but that's what I see. I mean, I'm not saying that it's mandatory, but this is what I see. I mean, it's a common trend in life sciences, for instance, at least in the panels I've been. Everything is omics, single cell. There's nothing else but single cell omics for everything, which is probably justified, but sometimes I get the idea that you generate tons of data and then at the end of the day, you don't really know what to do with it. But that's absolutely off the record perception that I have, okay? But that's a common characteristic. Bold idea, cutting-edge technology. Usually that's what I see.
I can add something. The technology can be also tricky because depending on the panel, some people will consider that so many data from omics, for instance, without the proper analysis is useless. So be careful with technology because at the end, the central thing is the idea and the concept. I mean, it's very difficult to have a very extremely good proposal with like a very plain technology, but it's possible. And these proposals are amazing. People are able to do something that experimentally is very simple, but conceptually is very complex. That is like the top sometimes. But be careful with the omics, because in my panel we have like microbiologists like me, the microecologists rely on omics a lot, but for like normal ecologists, like the statistics and this part is more important. So you have to have both. And if I can add something, panelists are not your enemies. Even if they get irritated with the sloppy proposals, normally people are empathetic with the candidates. I mean, don't think of, but be careful when you write because, I mean, you have to consider, as in every other writing, I mean, you will have to think of the readers when you write a paper, when you give a lecture, anywhere. But the people, panelists normally are like trying to find the best things in the proposal normally. But the things that there are so many proposals so good that it's difficult, yes.
There is a comment that I just wanted to make, which I have seen over the years, and somehow relates to technology, but also relates to host institutes, right? So the host institute does not count at all. And I can say this, so don't count at all. It's not allowed to even talk or mentioning the host institute. There is no biasing at all on the host institute, okay? But obviously, if you are writing a proposal and you work at the Max Planck Institute in which you have infinite resources, you could be more ambitious in terms of the experiments that you could propose. And if you work in the University of the Donald Duck, in which basically they don't have anything, you have very little resources, and you're going to bind yourself to what you can do in that, okay? So to some extent, whatever you are, it gives you the mean and how ambitious you could be in the proposal, right? So now, and Nacho say that there is 1 million additional money that even if you are in the University of the Donald Duck, but you are very good, you are entitled to ask for that million to get to do those experiments that you would do probably not in the Max Planck, but probably in a very decent place. So don't limit yourself by saying, no, I'm going to do this and I'm not going to ask for extra money because I will be very grateful if they already give me the grant. No. You need to have 1 million to buy your next whatever, ask for that million. And if your idea is convincing, if you need that technology, ask for it. Because most probably is that if the idea is good, you will get that extra million. Okay, so that is also something that I would say.
Okay, thank you. We get to the last questions, and that is specifically addressed to panel members. Lessons learned serving as a panel member. What are the most valuable lessons you learned from serving as an ERC evaluator? Would you recommend this experience to other researchers? What insights from your role as an evaluator have influenced how you approach writing your own proposals? Who wants to start? Would you recommend being a panel member?
Yeah, sure. And I think you learn a lot. I mean, most of the proposals are really amazing. I was even surprised, enjoying so much reading the proposal, because I had like, I don't know, you have, as you say, 20 or 30, but it's really amazing, the science that, and especially it's like a hope to see these young people with these mind-blowing ideas. It's fantastic. So I think it is worthy to, and you learn, of course. I mean, I don't think for me, was useful for I didn't apply for an ERC, and I have a practice applying for European grants, but I use this experience to judge the proposal. So, but I think it's a very good experience. A lot of work, and it's a lot of responsibility, because, and I have to say, for me, this is a bit, this I don't enjoy. When you are at the end and you know that the life of someone is going to depend, because there are some proposals at the end that are very close. So the very good ones are very clear. The bad ones, if any, are very clear. But the ones in the middle are not that clear. I mean, it's impossible, because they are different. So to see that the life of someone depends on how you defend something, or how you, because at the end it's just a differential. I mean, it's not, but this is a bit of suffering for me, at least. I mean, it's like the mother that suffers, but I think it's really a very good experience. Yeah.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I will share this. So I think that you learned a lot. It's a very nice experience. We are all scientists. We're going to write our ERC grant. I was a previous advanced ERC grantee. I have been in the panel. I have learned new things. I have applied for a new one. I don't know whether I will get it, so I don't know whether the experience was useful or not.
Which panel are you?
But you know, one of the things, and especially if, whenever you get your grant, it's going to be highly probable that then you will be in one of the serving as one of the panel members. And I think that this is something that you should actually do. You learned a lot from many perspectives, the interaction with also other scientists. What you said, there is always probably, 2, 3 proposals that you know that they're going to make it. And you know that there will be probably 2, 3 proposals that you know that they're not going to make it. And then there is this huge thing in there of very good proposals. And so, the ones that they don't get it, that they are on the top, is just by chance. It's just that there is not enough money. So if you take the comments, even if you do not get it, read very carefully the comments in there, because it might be really minor, but you could make it on the top. And also the other sort of believed, and you mentioned it this morning, and so the main thing of the ERC is really the proposal. You have to be a good PI, you have to have a good track record, you have to, to go for an ERC, you have to be a good researcher because you need to think about novel ideas. But you don't need to have, 100 cells of nature, so science in order to get the proposal. You have to be, and it's a common mistake that people say, no, I'm not gonna write an ERC grant because I'm not good enough, or I'm not a star. If you have a very good idea and you have a solid background, just write it. Just write it and show that you are capable of doing it, but you don't need to be, the next Nobel Prize winner in order to get an ERC grant. You need to have a solid CV, and you have to convince the reviewers that you are the right person to address that question. I would say, and I have learned this in the panels.
Yeah, I think that in any role as a reviewer, these grants are like a huge challenge. But being a reviewer allows you to see through a different set of eyes how is a proposal captured. You learn how to identify the key ingredients of something that is attractive to you in terms of research, even if it's not so close to your research. And I think that despite all the pressure on the concept that seems something unreachable. How am I've been doing this for the past 10 years and now I need to reinvent myself and bring a new concept. Sometimes new concepts come from looking at the same problem from a different angle. And this is what you can identify in research projects. What is this person doing and where is the concept coming from? So how to reassess your ideas so that they allow you to grow and to bring new concepts, I think it's a very important exercise. And being a reviewer allows you to train on that and to be better. But I think it's also very important to make sure that you are at the right time of undertaking this role. It's I think we are all in different moments in our careers, and there are times where you can actually do it with the level of dedication that is required and learn from it and then go on with your research. So I think that we also need to identify that is the right moment to take part on this so that we can give and take the most from the experience.
I would also like to give a personal advice, more probably not from the side of an evaluator, but in general. So when you're thinking like, what is this new idea that I'm going to propose, or, this groundbreaking research, that actually doesn't, at least in myself, so I talk now very personally, it doesn't come from one day to the other. It comes from really start thinking, reading, and not only reading in your field, reading outside. And then that process of reading, thinking, going back and forth, and reading other literature, and start making connections. To me, that takes at least 6 months to 9 months to start preparing the idea. And then I'll take about a month or something to actually write the grant. But the process of writing the grant takes a month. The process of generating the idea, thinking about how I can make the connections, is a long process. So, number one, don't believe that I'm not a genius because I don't have an idea. Because, there are probably a few geniuses in the world, but most normal human beings, like I am, I need time to think, to read, to learn, to make connections until this thing comes. Okay, so I would really give an advice of, take the time to think, to generate, to try. Do people try this before? Has this question been addressed before? Why hasn't been addressed before? And start, digging in until the idea gets there. And then the writing goes faster.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to add we have finished the questions, but I would like to add a few comments about this. I mean, I totally agree again with all the comments, but during panel meetings, obviously you have the very clear-cut, fundable proposals, and you have a few of them that are not as good as the rest, and you can clearly distinguish top and bottom. And you have the gray zone, okay? The gray zone is unfair, period. It's unfair because it depends on many factors. It depends whether you have a panel member that really like your proposals. And there are even international agencies that use the lottery system. They flip a coin just to give those gray zones because it's unfair, okay? And don't get discouraged with these things. And the second thing is, this couple of years that I have spent at the ERC, my perception of the ERC is that the evaluation system is as good as it gets. Okay, it's not perfect, of course, but what I've seen is extremely dedicated people to improve the evaluation process all the time. Okay, they are every day challenging how to improve, for instance, the panels, how to improve the descriptors. We should change this. They are extremely responsive to panel members' comments. At the end of the panel meetings, one of the things that they have to give us is a panel report. We think, eligibility windows was coming from panel members. They were complaining, and we have to increase, we have to change it. This is not working. Well, this is it, So they're extremely sensitive, and I'm being gladly impressed how the staff of the ERC works in trying to make this process as fair as it can get. So be aware of that, okay? I'm an outsider at the ERC, but it's honest for me to say that, okay? And with this comment, we have finished. We are open. If you have any other questions, we gladly will take it.
Yep.
Microphone over there, please.
Thank you. Thank you for all these advices, really great. I'm just wondering whether the proposal has to focus very strongly on what you would like to do by your own team, or what is expected to include in terms of collaborations with other teams, and whether this focus changes across the different types of grants.
Okay, who wants to take that one?
That will be for an advanced grant or in general? Because I think it's slightly different.
Mm-hmm. Why? Well, that's why I ask whether it changes across the different types of individual grants. So in my case, would be advanced, but I'm just wondering exactly whether somehow in advanced grants you expect more a network of collaborators involved in the proposal, and maybe in the young grants it's not like this, or whether it's always very focused on your own team. What is this balance?
Well, at least for starting, the collaboration is regarded as good if the PI does not have the needed experience. Okay, so if there is a gap of skills in the PI's background, it is good to have someone else collaborating in this part. But my impression is it's better if the PI is able to address the whole thing with some help, but not like one part that should be based on someone else's experience. But if the PI does not have the experience because he's young and needs to open a new line, and I don't know, has to do modeling and does not have the experience, needs to have modelers maybe from other teams and so, but it has to be very well justified, at least in the starting. This is my impression.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that in my personal experience and when I read an ERC, the key is that collaborations never compromise leadership. So collaborations are needed. I think that in our most research fields, collaborations are required. But for this type of proposals, collaborations in specific tasks can add value. Collaborations that make you dependable can be a limitation for the grant. This is how that was what they recommended me, and I think it's a good recommendation, that your leadership is always clear, and then the collaborations add value to make feasible implementation of technologies or experimental approaches, specific tasks, but not overall knowledge or development of the proposal.
Same at the advanced level. Basically, I would not add anything else.
Yeah, my comment on nuance would be that, I mean, you want a collaborator because you need a collaborator. Not, you don't want your proposal to look like you are, let's say, an operator. You know, you agree with 5 guys, you know, that help you to pursue. No. What Akai said is key. I mean, you have to be the leader. You are in charge of everything, and you need a collaborator because you don't have that expertise. That's fine. That's okay. But you don't want to artificially inflate your collaborators' network. I mean, you need a collaborator because you need it. It's not bad. But I think the key is that you are in charge and you look for help because you need that expertise, basically.
One advice that you often hear is that in the project, it's important to convey a long-term vision and also relevance to other fields of research, disease domains. To what extent is this important in the evaluation of the grant? And what are your thoughts on how to best reflect this perspective?
Wants to take that one?
I can answer this question, at least at the advanced level. In the advanced level, you are really expected to provide a long-term vision. So how this proposal is going to change, how is it going to make an impact in the field? How is it going to change our way of thinking about that particular question? Or how is it going to open new frontiers of research? And you know, even the fact that you say, well, this proposal is going to open many more questions in the field, just because you provide the seed and you provide the groundwork to open a new frontier of research. And so that long-term vision has to be this is what we look at the advanced level.
I agree. Yes.
I agree. No, come.
Hi, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, very briefly. I would insist on the fact that I think that an ERC feels or falls very naturally into a context where you frame a paradigm in research, and then you specify how your proposal will revisit the paradigm. So, and that if that permeates other areas of research, this will make reviewers closer to your proposal. I think that, I mean, I work in cancer research, and I assume that much of the research that we do can influence other pathologies. But I'm not sure if I would need to explicitly say that this would bring it beyond necessarily, but rather make it clear that we are assessing a pathology, and the knowledge that we generate will naturally permeate into other contexts.
This paradigm challenge, this is important in my field also. Maybe it doesn't go through other areas, but if it's addressing a theory that is going to be challenged and there is a paradigm change, this is a winner.
Yeah, and I would like just to mention, I mean, it's a two-edged sword, this thing. I mean, don't oversell your idea.
Yeah.
Okay, be humble. That would be my, okay.
I was wondering very practically, like, how is the reviewing, or like, is there, do you follow a checklist, or do you have like like for instance, if you submit a Marie Curie, right? Like you just even as the applicant, you can see the checklist that the reviewers will use to basically score your proposals, very point based, right? I was wondering how does this work for the ERC grants? Like, do you have a similar sort of setup, or is it? Yeah.
I mean, the panel members are very, very, very well instructed from the very, very beginning of the evaluation process to assess a specific criteria, okay? And they have to answer specific questions in the evaluation sheets. They cannot comment on any other things, okay? And we clearly read those reviews, okay, and make modifications to say you cannot say that, okay, and we're extremely careful for that. But they follow a very, very strict protocol of question they have to answer. It's not free text. Let's put it that way, okay.
Can I ask a question? Do the applicants have the list, the questions that we have to address?
Yeah.
Because
they do,
this is a very good
they do.
way of structuring
and regarding this, also panel members' names are public. Panel chairs were public, but the panel members now they are made public after the call. Okay, so you can have an idea where, because they alternate, so you can pick which. So you can basically design your proposal according to the panel, I guess.
Can I ask?
I shouldn't say that, but anyway.
No, but no, that's an important thing, because in the interview, you can get asked. Well, you will get asked for like a few panelists, but it's important to know the composition of the panel, so you know how to address you have to have like a very wide theoretical knowledge of your proposal, things that are around and that can be of interest to people in the panel from outside the field, because they may have questions that people who are closer to you probably don't have these questions, but people in the panel who are in the outskirts of the panel will have these questions. So it's important that you don't have to study everyone's curriculum, but just have an idea who's going to be there, so it may help you to know what, and you have to know very well your proposal, but not only your proposal, everything around, okay? This, because you will get asked questions, and this is key, that you show that you know, and if you don't know, you say, well, I don't know, but so do you have, it's well beyond what you have written. So knowing the panelists, I think it may help, although don't get obsessed with that, but I think it can be of some help.
So it's more about, in my lab, we also do cancer biology. We develop technology, and now I come up with an idea that probably the best application is not in cancer itself. So should I switch panels if it comes to that? Because I'm getting into a different field. It's kind of scary. I don't know anyone, because you were talking about the panels right now.
First thing they told me, my colleagues at the ERC, don't commit yourself to anybody, to a specific panel. You can't say that. You can say that. Okay, here we go. Here's the thing. Unfortunately, I go back to a previous comment that I did during my talk. I totally am very empathetic with the situation. If you had to pick what is the most striking feature of your proposal, your more innovative, groundbreaking thing, if this is technology, this is what a panel member from that specific panel would read and said, whoa, this is a whole new thing, very original. I would go for that, okay? I would go for that. That's the key, even if it's related to cancer, whatever. But that's the main thing of your proposal. And you should bet on the panel that better represent that innovative aspect of your proposal.
Yeah, thanks.
I don't know.
We've got two questions from the online audience.
Oh, okay.
The first one is, Are part 1, 5 pages, and part 2, 7 pages, expected to be 100% non-overlapping?
Well,
And the second question, which is somehow connected, is, well, yeah, it's connected and not, but anyway, will be allowed to apply to a regular ERC and to an ERC plus the same year? No?
that's a clear one. No.
No, okay.
No. It's ERC is just one shot per call, and if I may take the first one, 100%. Okay, feasibility, research technology is not included in part 1, and I mean, I know it's hard, and you have to find the right balance. Okay, all the details of research methodology has to be in part 2. That's 100% sure. But you have also to convince that how you're going to do it, at least some clues of how you're going to do it. It will be some overlap, yes, 100% distinction, probably not, okay? But at least you have to say something. But before there was this struggle, as I mentioned, between part 1 and part 2, some of the applicants put a lot of methodology in part 1 and then repeat it in part 2, or some didn't write anything of research methodology. Well, now it's clear cut, okay? Research methodology goes to part 2, but you have to give some hints. I mean, and I know it's not a clear answer, but that's as far as I can go, okay? I mean, I insist on giving this to people, to your colleagues in your field, outside your field, and get a sense if they catch the message. So that would be my best suggestion.
And also be one to give it to a colleague that is not from your field.
Yeah.
But not too far away from your field.
No, obviously, right? But you know, yeah.
My turn. I would like to to ask you how you evaluate the timely ideas, especially now with the artificial intelligence. I mean, ideas that perhaps now are breakthrough, but you can see that not in some years with the evolution of the technology.
I don't know.
Can you be a little bit more explicit?
Yeah, sometimes, well, I need to assess researchers about the how important is an idea to be timely. So perhaps you are in a field and you are using artificial intelligence to do a breakthrough in this field, but perhaps all the world is doing the same. So it's competitive right now, but not, I don't know, perhaps not in 3 years, 4 years. You know what I mean?
We'll take that one.
I think that at the time of writing the proposal, when you are putting forward this concept, as a reviewer, the best chance is that reviewer believes in you and your concept. The experimental strategies that you devise at the moment of writing the proposal are the best at that time. But if you believe in the applicant, you will believe that when the project is in place, the advancement of technology will be with the advancement of the candidate's project. So I think that that's why the concept is the center, and the experimental approaches are the best that you can do at that moment. The project needs to be feasible, but it's also adaptable to the timing of the research. So I, as an applicant, what I wrote in my 2 ERCs and what I did is quite different. There is a conceptual, the concept is there. The experimental approaches are different because the field evolves very rapidly. So you need to trust that that person is going to be able to make the best of the resources to bring the concept forward. That's why I wouldn't worry too much about whether the concept is new now with the technology that is being implemented, but not in 3 years. Because in 3 years, that person will have the resources to take the best of that moment and bring it forward as well. That would be my guess, if the project is convincing to me that it will change in the form, but not in the spirit.
Okay, thanks. Many thanks.
We have 5 minutes left. Any other questions? Any further comments from our panelists? Any
well,
take-home messages,
well,
final remarks?
there are many take-home messages, but I mean, I would like just to finish with when we receive the different, I mean, when you get an ERC grant, you have a midterm report, a final report that we assess, okay, we read how the project is going, if it's major issues or whatever, you know. And but when you get the final report, there's one section that basically the question is how this ERC grant has impacted in your scientific life. And there is a common sentence that repeats and shows up very frequently. This has been a life-changing scientific experience for me. I mean, this put me on the map, and opens many doors, okay? I know you know this, but it's very nice to read this kind of sentences and expression when you at the end of a project. And the message I want to send you, that probably you're convinced already, is that apply for an ERC. I mean, it's worth the effort, and don't get discouraged in you don't get it the first time, okay? And yes, I mean, I think the ERC is a great funding scheme, and we should look after it, okay? And that's it. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to make a comment, because there was, during your talk, there was the question as to, you know, with the extension of the starting and consolidated times, whether somebody could be equally eligible for a starting or for a consolidator, and what should I do? And I think that the answer in here is look at your trajectory and look at your CV. If you're really starting your group and starting your research, go for an starting. But if you already have a group, and if you already have results, and if you already are in the way to consolidate your research career, go for a consolidator. Don't make the mistake of thinking that I have a longer experience, I'm going to go for a starting because I will have more chances. Because it could work exactly the other way around. So look at your trajectory, and then really see whether you are at a consolidator level or whether you are at a starting level. Because reviewers will see this. And so be as honest as you can. And just as a very final, when you say that, at least at the advance, we are expected to open up new frontiers of research. Be realistic. Don't say, you know, I'm going to cure cancer. You know, the impact of my proposal is that cancer would disappear, because nobody will, you know, believe that. So be also realistic, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Final comments?
Yeah, I think that with this discussion, if I would be there, you say, I mean, this writing an ERC, it's, I mean, you need to devote, it's an enormous challenge. And I think that for people that don't have an ERC, that have never faced this size of a project, I think thinking of your line of research is critical. For people that have an ERC and are thinking about moving forward, I think that it boils down to the notion of finding that idea in the lab that makes you tickle, right? What is really exciting, and how can you frame it and give it dimension? So it requires time. I think that bringing the idea forward requires time, but we all have ideas that we can put into this dimension. I think that these are not impossible ideas that you need to bring forward, but rather to position yourself in the field, see where you are, see the value that you can add, and which is the concept that you can build. So that requires also having a level of, I would say, stress that allows you to have sufficient attention. So lowering the bar of stress so that creativity can come up. Because without this creativity, I think these proposals cannot be designed. And this is a challenge because we are looking for money to do, to recruit, to build, to apply technology. But we need to do it from a standpoint that is based on creativity and ideas that can change how we understand biology or in other areas, whatever aspect that we are pursuing. So it's the challenge is to bring yourself to the point where you can push the idea and then make it into something achievable. And
okay. Well, we have come to finish. Just one. I would like just to thank again the Valdebrón Research Institute and Kaiser Research Institute for this opportunity. Thank you for the panelists to come here and talk. And I wish you the best of luck with the new Kaiser Research Institute. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So now we are going to start the next roundtable, that is with the ERC awardees. So we will start in the next minutes. Thank you. Hello? We're gonna start. Let's move on now to the roundtable of ERC grantees. This is our second and last roundtable of today. Our panelists and moderator are ERC grantees. The moderator is Benedetta Bolognesi, group leader of the Protein Phase Transitions in Health and Disease Lab from the Institute for Bioengineering of Catalonia, IBEC. Benedetta, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Welcome to you and also to everyone who is joining online. And it's a pleasure for me, actually, to moderate this session and to introduce you to Vincenzo Calvanese from the Giuseppe Carrera Leukemia Institute, to Francisco Barriga from the Val d'Hebron Institute for Oncology, and to Marianna Spatola from the ED Babs Hospital Clinic. They are all group leaders. They all hold grants. And I guess that our goal today is to deliver a bit to showcase the diversity and heterogeneity of our experiences applying and getting an ERC grant. And maybe I just want to point out, we have identified a set of questions which will be good to bring up, and we'll have space at the end of this session for your spontaneous questions. And maybe when we start, I would like my fellow members to introduce which grant they have and from which panel, because it gives a bit of context. So let's get started with like something to warm up. How have you come up with an idea to write a project? Was it a very natural and spontaneous process, or was it more organized and structured? And how did you feel that this was a good fit for the ERC? What made you understand that and get started? And maybe we'll start with Marianna on this.
Yes, thank you so much. So I have an ERC starting grant from the panel Life Science 5, so in neuroimmunology. So my idea for this ERC starting grant indeed came from a long way. So basically, and it's very nice to see that the panelists before were bringing this up. So there was first a very long work of searching for ideas after my PhD, because basically I really wanted to find my new research line in the future. So I was looking very far away from me. And so this first search came up for me by reading in different fields from mine. To really identify even where I wanted to do my postdoc, to then bring together my ideas for something more in long term. So to develop my new research line. And so after my postdoc, I felt like, okay, now I really feel I have a new way of approaching the problem in my field. And so basically this was my way to put together this idea, but it came from a long digestion process over the years.
Thank you. So I am basically in a consolidated ERC consolidated grant 1 year and a half in, and it is a life science tree, so cell and developmental biology and other things. How did the idea come up? I have to say that because I am a consolidator, but just for context, I applied for the consolidator at a very early time where I was independent investigator, so also to give, just because of eligibility rule back then. And so I basically was mature enough in my head. I had already had a lab for a year and a half, well, maybe for a year only when I started applying, but I didn't have lines of research very well developed. I had only one person in the lab. I've used ideas that I had from much earlier before, and I was not able to do just because there was not such a big grant that I could apply for. But in the end, I really framed it for a long time. Even before I started to apply for this type of grant, I wanted to apply for anything that would allow me to do such a big and novel project in there. I was in the UK too, so at that time UK was not eligible for getting a ERC grant in that moment, so I wasn't sure that was the type of grant that I wanted to apply for. It turned out well, but good. And in the end, I think that the whole idea is that I matured the idea for a long time. The choice of applying for an ERC grant, an ERC consolidator grant, was kind of dictated by the situation. And it was also my last year of eligibility, so I had nothing to lose. And, in the end, it turned out I had many insecurity. I also tell this because I'm sure many people relate to that. I had many insecurity as to was I at the right time of my career to apply for this type of grant. And I did it anyway, and it turned out well. The important thing, as has been said a lot of time, was the bold idea, and I had that in my heart already for a long time. So it was a good combination of events.
Yeah. I think this element of like a very down-to-earth personal circumstances sometimes combined to like a long fermentation process of the idea is really in line with what I see. How did the idea come about for you?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Pancho Barriga, LS4. I do cancer genetics, but for people that do life science, LS4 is this basket of everything. So for me, it's basically similar idea as Vincenzo and even like Mariana. I was thinking of a big concept that I wanted to do for my postdoc that I would know. I knew that even if I publish one paper in the postdoc, the idea is big enough that I can carry it and be independent. This was happening in the US at the time. So like Vincenzo, I applied because I was running out of time. At the time, I was a postdoc in the US. I didn't have a preprint or a paper from my postdoc, but the time was running out and I thought the idea was good. So I just went for it. This was COVID ×2, so I mean, a lot of things happened. We were all in this collective trauma, but definitely the idea had been fermenting for a long time, as you very well put, Bene. But then the writing took me a month. So I think someone in the previous panel said, it's like, you think about it a long time and then just execute. So definitely, I feel that's the common theme. We think about something for a long time. If you believe in it, you just go for it. And I mean, I talked to a lot of colleagues, but on paper, I should have never gotten it. But I thought the idea was good enough, so I'm here. So.
Was there anything that made you think this is a good fit for the ERC?
So I've come to terms that the way I think about my research is I tried to build new technologies. So I thought it would be a good fit because it really unlocked a new way to look at cancer genetics. Mm-hmm. So I thought like, well, I mean, there's no way I'm going to solve all of these, like this gigantic field. But if I put forward a technology and focus on key points that can enable other cancer researchers to do it, I think this thematically fits with what I think the ERC is looking for.
Yeah. So maybe I applied for a consolidator with the LS2 panel, and the grant started just about a year and a half ago as well for me. I guess that maybe what I want to add from my experience here, besides the long fermentation, which for me also was a long process, but then the writing was 1 month, and it felt very natural at that stage. But it doesn't mean that everything happened within 1 month, right? And novelty, you know, which is a word we hear a lot, is not really something you sit down and plan for, right? Like it comes from very careful observation of your data or data that is out there. And then at some point, there's something that maybe doesn't fit a concept that we have already formulated, or maybe you see that you can come in an orthogonal way, and that's where things really click, and then it becomes easy to write. I guess that I also had a feeling that a lot of my other grants were aiming to cure disease, which is great, you know, and we can apply for many calls where we just want to do that, and I think it's a great motivation for us all. However, there's also an element that of us that just wants to discover new biology, and sometimes the two things can also go together, and I think the ERC that has that bit in it. So you have to make sure that your idea involves also exploring and discovering new biology. And maybe something else clicked inside me when I realized that, yes, this is competitive, but there are many other grants that are very competitive, you know. We have Lacaisha Health, which is a fantastic call. It's more competitive than an ERC,
Oh, yeah.
right? Plenty of grants in the US, they're more competitive than the ERC,
Very much so.
right? So that actually, I guess, it removed a bit of fear, right? I thought, okay, let's play this game. And maybe now let's think a little bit about what were the biggest challenges when writing, and if you can add some practical details again. How much did it take you? Is there anything practical that really worked for you at the moment of writing? And we can start with Vincenzo now.
Well, I think that main challenges is to find the time for once you decide to apply, because you know the ideas may be there, but you decide to apply and then you take the commitment, is to find the time in the organization to really dedicate yourself enough to the task that has been discussed before. Read what's around, how has anybody thought of similar things, how have they approached it, and everything else. Mostly for the reading, for the writing too, because as we said, has been said very well, it has to be flawless, it has to be very direct. There is only one way. There's many ways, but there is one element of form that needs to be complied just to get to a certain level of being heard about the novelty, about the importance of your idea. So the writing but for me, it was also basically a month since, and the time previous to that, it was like reading, having enough time with all the tasks that we all have in our daily life to be able to really think, read, and mature and ferment this idea. Like not so much the idea may be there already, but to really put it at the state of art and find the newest, most updated approach that you will propose then in the grant to be able to do it. So I think that was the most challenging part, and also I think in a way, think of the format of the grant. So I had an advantage, I think, in that, so that because I had been 10 years in the US and then in the UK, I had not been put into a frame set of, what the ERC means and how you should apply for it, and how, whether it's too much. At the time when I decided, then I talked to people, obviously, afterwards. But at the time when I decided, I didn't have a preconceived idea of what's supposed to be the process, what's supposed to be the things, and that gave me a little bit of freedom to do it in my way, which I think is a little bit the message that I want to give also in general. There is not one way of doing things, but you have to find the way that works for you. It may take 1 month of writing or 6 months of writing, depending on what's your style, what's your idea, and that's a little bit the challenge there. What is it that works for you, and how much can you rely on what's been told to you, and how much is really kind of like for you to decide the best way for yourself to do the application process.
So on my end, the specifics, be realistic. You cannot write a high-quality proposal in a week. If you've thought about it a lot and you've written a lot of grants, which I had the good luck to be in a lab that encouraged writing a lot, so I had a lot of practice. I also had written similar, smaller grants around similar concepts, so I already had starting material. This is why I could, in 1 month, put it together. The hardest part for me was not carving out the time because I went pandemic. I couldn't be in the lab as much as I wanted. But it was to be precise and be like, boil down the language so you can effectively communicate. Because then I tended to write very long sentences that were not to the point. So for me, it was like the specifics is carve out enough hours a day and be disciplined enough that you put in the effort it actually takes, or it took me. Maybe someone is great. Well, we didn't have LLMs back then. I don't know if that's used or not. I don't particularly like them. But for me, it was investing the time, just as Vincenzo said, you need to find the time to do it well. I cannot speak of anything that is more general than that because I have very specific ways of how I like to write and make my figures and so on.
Yeah, for me, I agree. So the first challenge is really, okay, I have my view, but now how can I transform this perspective into a real concrete idea that is that I can write and can be readable. So the first point was really to take time to find a way to write it down. For me, for example, I'm a very visual person, so for me it was very helpful to start by conceiving figures. And so for me, it was first like one figure that put everything together about the bigger idea, and then writing like I made, for example, figures for each aim. But even within each aim, once I got to the conceptualization of the aims, then I had to again go back to reading. So for me, it was a little bit back and forth between writing and reading, because I had to refine some ideas. I have to understand better from other fields how these certain technologies are done or are connected to what I want to do. So for me, it took, I would say, the writing part took 3 to 4 months. And also in this phase, for me, it was very important to have feedback. So I had also quite an experience before from writing other grants, but it was very useful for me to send to colleagues and have some feedback, or sometimes just sit down at a round table with other colleagues and try to explain my idea. And the fact of trying to explain made me realize, okay, this part is not really connected to the following one. So I would say that then the biggest challenge for me was really to simplify the writing. So make it simple, think about someone who is reading and who is reading a lot of proposals. So putting myself into the shoes of a reviewer and think that I want to tell a story in a scientific way, of course, but tell a story that is enjoyable. So for me, it was really try to find a way to make it enjoyable, very easy to follow, very easy to visualize, also through the figures. So for me, it took me a long way to really every time take over pieces that were not that were unnecessary, or that were redundant, or that were that make the reading less enjoyable.
I guess, one challenge is also logistics, because, for example, for a consolidator, you're already running a lab, you're managing people, you hardly can spend, the entire day just doing this. So for me, I also needed to identify to block out time. I knew early morning was good for me, so I was blocking out my mornings to write. So I was sure I was allocating this time. And then, the rest of life, personal or the lab life, has to go on, right? And it's the same for us starting. You may be still doing experiments at the bench. So you need to identify what works for you in terms of what is the best time when you write, and then block that time. And then I remember realizing the challenge of wanting to make this actually, I would say wanting to make life easy for the reviewers. I realized that at some point, and it came up before, in terms of clarity, presentation, that takes many iterations, I would say. And it's so important, and you also realize it when you are reviewing grants, not just ERC ones, but in general, if things are tricky, you are annoyed, and that's it. We will comment on this maybe a bit later, but now let's discuss a little bit about the choice of panel and the interview process in general. do you have any advice on how to prepare for the presentation, and which kind of questions did you get? And we can start with Pancho.
I went to LS4, as I mentioned, because this is the only one that had somewhere in the list that said cancer, and I do like very specific cancer research. So that was a no-brainer for me. There was a scenario where I could have, let's say, winged it in the genetics, genomics aspect, but it was a stretch, so I went with that. To prepare, I have to say, I was in the US. I had no one around me that had gone through an ERC, so I just relied on asking around. A few people that I knew had some experience, but I just talked to my friends and drilled down on the science. Just as Nacho said, I tried to be the best scientist it was, so I read the literature and I tried to be very critical about the weak parts of the proposal. And then I just went to the interview, which was an experience. I don't know if we'll talk about it later, but it was intense. But yeah, I don't think I did anything specific beyond asking for feedback from colleagues.
I think if you want to go a bit deeper, what do you mean with an experience?
When the interview ended, I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. But the reality was, so it was, again, it was online. Almost everyone but the chair had the camera on, so it was just like, again, it was the first COVID interview. It was, I think things were still up in the air. And for me, it was a very intense experience because it's like, we're running late, questions. So I did my 7-minute talk and then 17 minutes. And I mean, they were not holding any punches. Usually when you're giving a seminar, people are like, well, have you considered, it's like, this is wrong. And it's like, I disagree. I think this is right because of this. So, but at the end, you realize that, I mean, you just get attacked constantly and then they kick you out of the Zoom or the WebEx. And it's like, wow, okay, that did not go as I thought. But then it did work out, so. I don't know, it was an intense experience. But I've talked to other colleagues that had very positive interviews and others that said, oh, if you did really well, it means they were not challenging you enough. And others said, like, no. If you did really, so I don't know. That's why I can't really comment beyond my own experience.
In my case, actually, it wasn't so much trauma, I would say. However, yeah, there were lots of questions, and I remember I had practiced to give very factual answers. I mean, you have to be factual when you write the grant, and you have to be extremely factual when you answer questions in the interview. It's not about opinions. It's about data. Your data in the literature, collaborators, and you want to answer in a very concise and fast way. It shouldn't take you 3 minutes to make a point. Practice, literally, I actually asked colleagues to ask me questions, colleagues from different fields, and I still have this file with like tons of questions, and I spent the summer answering those questions and thinking about how to answer them in 2 sentences. You don't want to use 10. And that was such a helpful process, regardless of the ERC. It's like, it's almost a pleasant process at the cognitive level. And then I think you deliver a certain, it's not just confidence, it's confidence based on data. So that's an exercise which I think I would recommend before the interview. How was your experience?
So for me, I enjoyed a lot the phase of creating the idea, writing down, having feedback. Preparing the interview was the most stressful part. I don't know if it was traumatic, but it was really, I had a very short time for how I am to, since when I knew that I went to the interview itself. So it was very stressful to prepare the presentation for me, to put all my ideas into this 7 minutes. I was obsessed by the fact of wanting to be very, very clear, very visual again, because I think from my point of view can be very helpful. I was coached, so I had coaches that helped me. It was very useful because they helped me to think in a different way. Also regarding the questions, as you said, so I sent the proposal to several colleagues and I collected and I did several mock interviews. I think this is also very, very useful, organized by my institution, by the Spanish FECIT. So I really trained a lot this, but of course, finally it was very full of interviews all my time, and the coaches helped me really to think in a different way than the usual way of going to a conference and answering questions. I'm used, and I think that as scientists we are used to make long sentences and to really structure our answers, and they really taught me to give less than 1 minute answers. With the idea again that if you can answer to as many questions as the panelists have, it's great because you don't leave anything unanswered somehow. This was one of the advice I received, and I think it was very, very useful. And I received around, I don't know, maybe 100 questions from colleagues. And so a lot of questions, and it was super useful because many of the questions I received during the interviews were raised already from colleagues within my field, but mostly around my field. So I really think it's something that it's advisable to do.
How was your experience?
Yeah. So I just want to say regarding the panel choice, which because it's relevant also for the interview part. So I ended up choosing LS3, but I remember very clearly when I was talking to people about these, I was told clearly that like people in my field that work very close to what I was proposing said that they purposely choose another panel because that was particularly hard, because reputation was something that was limiting that. But you know, in my case, the panel choice was pretty clear to me because the most novel, although it may have fit in other boxes and genomics and other things like that, in the end, the most novel part, the paradigm-changing part, was regarding that, you know, how do we look at developmental processes and a little bit more conceptual about biology. So it didn't make much sense to try to sell it to another panel. So I went in both to the submission and the interview process kind of like with the idea that that panel was gonna kill me in a way. And I also I hadn't looked extensively. I didn't know anyone from the panel, and I looked really lightly to what the composition of the panel and the interview panel especially could be. I don't say that you don't have to do it, but it's just me that I don't like to overthink and over prepare for things that ultimately may not be too much. And in the end, the experience was a very nice one, I have to say, in the sense in that I think that I was asked questions that were very relevant. Some of them I wasn't prepared for, but I thought they were very fair, and I had to improvise an answer. I also agree with everybody else that the key for this type of interview is to be prepared for giving a straight answer. And as a Southern Italian myself, I tend to be very reasoning and challenging and everything else, and give very long answer. And in that context, that probably doesn't work for a lot of things, because time is a constraint, because you want to, you know, really convey also that you are the expert, that you have the answer for this type of challenges that may come later. But overall, I didn't remember a traumatic experience.
Okay.
No, I used the wrong word. Like, but I think
I lost my hair now.
No, I think it's good actually that we highlight really that experiences can differ a bit, you know.
Yeah. So just to circle back, concise answers is key. And that also, as a Chilean, I also tend to talk a lot. So that was in the 2 mocks I did. It was less to the point. And the other is make it compelling enough so people that didn't read your actual proposal ask questions. And I did manage to do that because I got questions from, I think, half the panel, which means something was at least interesting enough to the people that were not leading the discussion to intervene. But that can only happen if you give them time by giving short answers. So.
And maybe another point, an interesting point, is to think that the panelists, at least for me, it was useful, maybe also to put down the stress, to think that the panelists were genuinely and scientifically interested in what you were proposing. So you've been selected for the interview, so it means that you have already convinced at a certain point that your ideas are good, and so if you go there, at least for me, it was very stressful, the preparation, but then the actual questions, I thought they were very, very interesting scientifically, so it was more like of an exchange of scientific exchange, which was overall positive.
Absolutely. Yeah, I also received only scientific questions.
Yes.
And I had gone for a panel, basically, I was proposing to use genomic techniques to answer a biophysical question, so I could go, for panels on both sides, and I decided to go for a panel that would understand the technology, the approach, right? And that was a bit of a bet, but it ended up being the right one, because they see that it was a new orthogonal way to address a long-standing
If I may add regarding the choice of the panel, for myself it was also I'm in neuroimmunology, so I chose the panel of neuroscience, but there is also a panel on immunology, and so in between the two, I chose really the panel that I thought might see myself with my best strength.
Yeah.
And I thought they would come out much more in the neuroscience part than in the immunology side.
Now to maybe just touch quickly.
Of course. Just conclude, because in terms of preparation for the interview, for my experience, because it was a little bit different. I really think that the preparation of it in terms of form comes in a very lot way, and there is many people that uses coaches or other tools that maybe your institute has a good grant program that allows you to do training programs. That I was in the UK, not many ERCs around. I was in UCL, a big university, so it's also there is people from many fields and everything else. For me, what worked very, very well was these mock interviews processes, and trying to really get in the panel of the interviews people that are at different levels that are experts enough that are going to be comparable to your panel that you're going to interview with, but they also have a little bit of an outsider view about your specific topic is key, because you get real time. I mean, the writing the answer and getting it to you, I think is very. I didn't do it, but the live response to answers, I think, is probably the most tricky part. Rather than trying to get prepared for every possible nitty-bitty part of your things, it could be like the improvisation is also something to get trained for, I guess, in a way. So, I think the mock interview were useful for that part too, and it really allowed me to get there feeling like this, I'm prepared enough that I can do this. Same.
I had mock interviews with sort of like fake panels. I also arranged for myself a lot of one-on-one interviews. They were a bit more informal, but I was still, giving my presentation and receiving questions, and that allowed me to have then an informal chat with that one person, going deeper in their expertise. And those were really helpful for me. I did use a consultancy at some point to prepare the interview with like a little bit of coaching. I don't think it's necessary. It wasn't necessarily so helpful for me. It did help me to kind of like keep the pace and be ready very early with the slides. And I received some good feedback from them, but I wouldn't say it was crucial in my case. Have you used anything like that? Or?
No, so that's not true. I used the FECIT mock interview, and Arkai, it was in the previous panel, was actually on it. It was like 5 a.m. in New York when I did the mock here. It was like midday. So I was not on the top of my game. But beyond that, no. I now realize that there's this whole slew of services that you can have, a preparation coach, the writing coach, and so on. I would be like, if this is available to you, go for it. I didn't use it because I didn't even know it existed. So I definitely, for me, I think the biggest thing is take advantage of your network. That's one of your biggest assets, like all the people around you. And if that includes coaches, great.
I think now let's move towards like some philosophical and practical points in terms of like lessons learned. Like when you think about the process, what have you learned? If you were to do it again, is there anything you would change and you would tell to your previous self, I guess? Maybe I will start on this one, actually. I haven't mentioned this before, but I had applied for a starting grant, which I did not get. I did not even pass to the interview, so this was a few years before I applied for a consolidator. And a bit like Vincenzo, I applied for a consolidator quite early on, actually, in terms of academic career. And I still had many other chances to apply, but the idea was good in that moment. And it felt natural to write it and relatively easy to write it in that moment. But what I learned between, not making it the first time and actually getting the grant the second time is that I realized that my first grant was just, I had not thought that through enough. It wasn't solid enough. It didn't have convincing preliminary data. The idea was okay, but it was too soft. And then a few years in, the idea developed and it became mature. It felt mature. I could prove there was a point. It doesn't mean that I had done half of the project. The project actually changed a lot. There was just something of the first idea that I kept in the consolidator. So I didn't simply obtain new data, but it definitely was a project that was more grounded. And maybe at the beginning I was a bit naive about this point. I thought that if the idea is cool, that's enough. It sounded novel. But it had to be more grounded, and that really helped me the second time around, and it helped me a lot also at the interview level. So maybe this is the lesson that I learned. And I guess down the line, another one, we'll give advice later. Now it's just about personal lessons learned, that it was a useful process anyway. Writing it, thinking about it, it helped me with other grants. It helped me thinking better about projects in the lab. So there's a value to it, that regardless of whether you get it or not. So lessons learned. Marianna.
Yeah, I think it would be to don't wait until you know whether or not you will go to the interview phase and start preparing for it. I don't know if it would be already having mock interviews, but at least start thinking about how you would like to present it in your slides, for example, because this would have helped me not to feel that stressed in that very restrained time to prepare it.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the suggestion or with the idea that the lesson that I learned is that I think that the process, I got it, but if I didn't get it, it would have been worth regardless, in the sense in that it's such a nice way to frame your best idea to something good that for anyone, I think is a good exercise. It will allow you to really rewire your thinking of your future careers in a way. So don't refrain from doing it. It's a lot of work, of course, and everybody has their own consideration, but if you do it, it'll be totally worth regardless. But I guess on the procedural part of the whole experience, one lesson that I learned is that yes, reach out to people of all types of levels for all types of things, whether it's science, outside of your field, inside your field, and everything else, and get as much feedback as you can. But also take whatever the feedback is with a grain of salt, in the sense in that not every feedback deserves consideration, because people took time for reading and doing it and everything else, but not forcedly it's the best feedback for you in that moment. Just interiorize it and get the best out of it, but sometimes also know where something doesn't make sense, or especially on things that feel like preconceived ideas or things that are not forcedly, they don't come from personal experience, but they come from a concept of the experience that is grounded on, that not forcedly will apply to you. So don't get too much restrained by types of feedback that especially could limit your possibilities of going for the grants.
If I can add on that, in my experience, that sometimes the feedback, and I don't know if it's more for the starting grants or not, when we are a bit more junior, if we can say that, the fact that of receiving feedback sometimes puts you in a position of not believing enough in your idea, in yourself. And this happened to me with the interview phase. Before the interview phase, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna make it. It's impossible to be prepared enough for this phase. And then at a certain point, I was able to say, okay, stop and take all the feedback with a grain of salt and say, okay, I'll go for it. It's just myself and my idea, and I will show the best of myself. And this is when I was able to enjoy this last
I think
phase.
this is a very good point, actually. It's like you have to bring yourself to the interview,
Exactly.
Otherwise it's going to show.
Yeah.
Any other lessons learned?
For me, the biggest one is I almost didn't apply. Go for it. The process is valuable. It's not easy. It's a lot of work. But even if you don't get it, just the mindset, the framework, everything you write is worth something, because writing is thinking, reading is thinking. And yeah, so I had everything like, oh, I'm not going to reach the deadline and so on. And then, again, some weird things happened because of COVID. They extended the deadline, and then suddenly I had the time to apply. And in my head, I had already given up. I'm not going back to Europe. This is it. What I learned is, you're never going to get the grant if you don't write it. So just, you have to try if you believe in your idea. And I 100% agree with, I'll take the feedback if it's useful, but this is my project, these are my ideas, and I'm just gonna go for it. If your feedback helps me make it better, great. If it doesn't, thank you. That's it.
Absolutely. I think we have a little bit more time, and maybe we can use it to add anything that we feel we haven't covered, and also to really give advice for future applicants. We have discussed our learned lessons, but what is the type of advice that you give to somebody who is approaching, a deadline and wants to write this type of grants? And we can actually start with Pancho.
I mean, I think I've shared the thing I didn't mention. I was in the reserve of the ERC for 9 months. And that teaches you a lot of things about yourself, because one day you're like applying for jobs in the US and you get an email that changed your life. So the advice I would be like is, I mean, you have to try, as long as the idea is good. I wouldn't say like, I think people brought up before, don't be sloppy. I mean, we're all here for a reason. If you're in this room today, imagine you're either applying or considering to apply. It means you already have an idea or starting to think of an idea. Well, trust yourself. Develop it, and be fair to yourself too. Like, not everything that we think of is great, but maybe enough things are. So again, the only last advice would be like, I would just go for it, understanding the time it takes to do it well. So.
Yeah, I guess maybe, I think there's a moment in which you feel it's easy to write, and I guess that you should capitalize on that moment. Like, there's a moment in which the idea is mature enough, you know enough, it has fermented in your head enough, and I think that is when you should apply, and that's the best time to apply, because it's gonna be personally easier to go through the process, and I think it's also more likely that the project will be successful if it felt natural to write it. If you have to stop thinking, oh, what shall I put in aim 3, and then spend ages trying to figure out what fits, that's a bit of a bad sign, in my opinion. Again, this can differ. And the other advice that I would really give is, again, make it easy for the reviewers to see what the concept is. If, in your B2, people are getting to page 3 and they haven't seen your objectives or your global aim, you have lost them, right? And in B1, this is even more important. They want to see this stuff in a good figure or in a block of text, but very clearly and early on. So they know what it's about, they will remember it, and they will defend you or support you in the panel discussion. Don't underestimate this, you know. So that takes time, but it's something that can be learned, right? It's not a magic skill.
Oh, and choose a good acronym.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And which advice would you add?
Go for it, yes.
I think that, I mean, a lot has been said already. Really try to adapt once you decide to do it, and by all means, I agree with the idea, I've already said it, go for it if you can, because I think it's worth it regardless. Adapt the experience and the timing to your own personality, features as a scientist, as a writer, as somebody who needs more or less feedback on things, because there is no one formula to do this. You will hear probably from the project office, from other people, okay, this is the stepping point, and that's typically very useful because there is a frame that you can follow and everything else, but there is no one solution to go for these things, and it is a very rewarding experience if you do it in your way. If you try to fit it in some schemes that don't fit your style, it may be a very bad experience too. So I think that it is important that you find your own way of doing this application process, which is going to be transformative for your career in many ways. So really give it the way that it has, but don't try to tick all the boxes just because. It's a matter of figuring out what's best for you to get to the point of sending a good application. With, again, okay, it's been said many times now, but great idea is probably the key, and there are a few things that are very important, and sometimes, like this is especially as a reviewers of some other grants and some things, it's been said before, it is very easy to really, once you have the idea and the project and everything else, to make sure that the form and the thing that you write fits a little bit what's been discussed in terms of simplicity, clarity, and directness and everything else. This is more of an exercise of writing than the science itself. So once you're worried, you don't have to worry anymore to figuring out new idea, new experimental process. Go through the process, because it's very easy for scientists to also be very close in terms of you need to put enough detail for somebody to understand, but not seeing the point of, okay, somebody needs to read and enjoy this. Enjoy the read and look directly at what is the major breakthrough that I'm going to make with this science. So make sure that comes across.
Yeah, for me, I think that especially I would say for starting people who are thinking about writing a starting grant, a good piece of advice would be really to think big. For me, it was really important not just to think, okay, which are the next experiments I can think about, but really what is my perspective in what is the new line, the new research that sparkles in me. So for me, the ERC starting grant really represented this idea of, okay, I can dare to think big. I can dare to put, to give it a chance to my ideas, to take time. This is another very good advice I would give. Take your time to think, take your time to read, take your time to have feedback, and believe in yourself, if I can say. Yeah, I think it's around that, yes.
I'll add one last thing. You should actually really, really want to do what you're proposing. Not because you can do it means you should do it. Because I've been in some mocks where you feel like some of the aims are being fit for coolness. And if coolness just happens to be in line with what you actually want to answer, great. But we can tell when you're like kind of forcing it. That's it, last thing.
I agree. Adding that one aim on single cell, now it's not bad because it feels like we are discriminating that technology. Not at all, actually. But you can tell when that's the case. Absolutely. Do we feel there's anything else we want to add, or shall we open the floor for questions, maybe?
Yes.
And take it from there. Please. Yes. there's one here from Nacho at the front.
It's coming.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think they are all great advices. I think there are many different ways to achieve the same goal, basically, and be yourself. I think it's a great message. Anyway, I just want to point out basically how the interview works from the inside. Okay, so you can understand why those things happen. Basically, you have time constraints by the second, basically. So 5 minutes before you get into the room, okay, the lead reviewer, your proposal is assessed by 4 panel members, and one of them is the lead reviewer, summarizes the proposals and summarizes the questions from the other panel members. And then before you get into the room, they distribute the questions among the 4 panel members, okay? The other panel members are not obliged to read the proposals. They can chip in, but they haven't probably read your proposal. So if you get any question from them, probably it's because of what you just said in the interview. Okay, so they distribute the questions. This is done in 5 minutes just before you get into the room. Then you are allowed to get into the room. You have 10 minutes. And then you get questions from the different panel members that have reviewed the proposal. Usually, they are asked to use all the 20 minutes they have to ask the questions, okay? Because we don't want to give the impression that you are not taking into consideration, basically. And right after they finish the questions, you are out of the room, and they discuss your proposal right away, okay? And they exchange opinions. Maybe it's a clear-cut proposal. Hey, in 1 minute, it's done, okay? But some of them are basically in the pool of fundable proposals. And that's how the way it works. And the questions, okay, they are distributed. They have mandatory questions. For instance, if you ask for additional funding, they have to ask, you have to justify why, okay? Or they see something that doesn't fit, the budget doesn't fit your aims, then why? Why are you asking for this? You're asking for a salary for postdoc? I think it's not necessary, so they will ask you for that. So those are mandatory questions that you can get. So you have to be aware of that. And you basically hit the jackpot. I mean, you cannot go on and on and on your answers. I mean, and they see that, they called you short and said, okay, thank you very much, we have another question. Okay, you don't want that to happen. So that's, from the inside, what we really see. And that's it.
How long do they have to discuss the proposal?
Okay.
The decision-making
They have a 15 minutes,
okay,
buffer time.
Okay.
But then at the end of the interviews, you have a whole session just to discuss all the proposals, okay?
I think maybe something we didn't mention, but I think it's impossible to guess anything from the interview experience. You know, the faces, the tone, they're very good at this. You know, so and then you mentioned this briefly. You have people that come out saying, oh, it was very challenging, that's a good sign. And then people that come out saying, oh, it was very calm, it's a good sign, or a bad sign, right? So also you actually won't have time to think about that.
And the panel has probably 24, 25 interviews, okay, during that week. And so, I mean, you have to take that into account. So, but yes.
Thank you very much. It was really inspiring. And I have one question because I think you answered regarding the interview, but I think there is a general idea that for writing a proposal, you need someone to accompany, I mean, as you say, the consulting agency or something to help you with that. And even people, I mean, a colleague of mine just applied for a ERC, and he gave the proposal to someone to read it and took 2,000 euros for, I mean, so, and I got the feeling that you wrote the proposal by yourselves without any help, and it went through, I mean, but at least here, I think it's quite this is this idea that like the University of Oxford gets many ERC grants because they have this support for writing and the figures, and so you didn't get any help at this stage. You did it by yourself.
I did not get any support at that level.
I did have, but more from a point of view of a feedback. So from the office of my institution, like pre-award office, they gave me some feedback on what I wrote. But it was more about formal suggestions. So I wrote it all, I had my, I presented it to other people, I had my feedback, I went back and forth to change it and refine it several times. And then the office gave me some feedback on the formal part, but it was, I would say, not a major part in the writing. It was really more from the feedback point of view.
Okay.
It was useful. It was very useful for me, but it was a minor part of the writing itself.
I paid in beers. I have a few friends that are...
1,000 euros in beer.
I did reach out to friends that are or were editors at the time, because I do feel that they have the right profile, the generalist profile. So I definitely reached out to them for this type of more formal writing feedback, but it was not, I mean, I just happened to have friends that are really good at this, and I just asked them for their advice. And only on the B1. I didn't put anyone through the B2. I thought it was too much to ask.
Same.
Too many beers, no, for the B2.
Same, same. I also asked colleagues to share their ERC proposals, and many of them did. That was very helpful. Like, and then you see how different people frame things slightly differently, but you see what works, what doesn't, and what fits you as well. So that was very helpful. Yeah.
Oh, another helpful thing is the ERC reading days. So for me, it was like getting started to this new world of the ERC grants, and it was very useful because you have several grants that you can, so you can choose among several grants that cannot be from your panel or the group of panels, which makes it a little bit complicated for you to evaluate whether it's why is it a successful grant or not? But I think it can be useful, or also to have to break the ice a little bit. If you think, okay, I need to be Superman to be able to apply for this, and then you read grants that partly you don't understand, but at least you have the impression that they are grounded ideas, and they are ideas coming from human people. And so for me it was useful also these ERC reading days, and it's another opportunity, yes.
For me, yes. I read some grants, I asked for personal feedback. Some of people in my department, whether they were ERC grantees or not, but they gave a lot of feedback, both on the science and on the formal parts, but I didn't pay anyone to go through my grant or anything like that. And I did share both my B1 and B2, and people didn't complain too much. But yeah, so I guess I didn't even know that was a thing. It was in 2022, I guess not that long ago, but still, yeah, it worked out without.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any more questions? Online?
People are writing their proposals.
Probably they already went for it. Okay. Then I guess we can wrap this up here.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming today. You will receive, the session has been recorded. You will receive it in a while. You will receive also the Nachos presentation, because a lot of people is asking us when are we receiving the Nachos presentation. And you will receive a feedback form that we will be grateful if you can fill it. Okay, so we have your feedback, and thanks again. And good luck with your proposals.